A handsome blonde prince holds a pink-haired girl close, introducing her as the duke's daughter, Elmo Torte, and right out of nowhere, he tells his fiancée that he is breaking off their engagement. The silver-haired lady looks completely stunned by the news, while the prince just stands there with a smug smile on his face. But instead of panicking, she realizes these are the exact same lines from a game she played, meaning her role is finally over. Normally, this is the part where she would cry and scream, asking him why he is doing this, but her tears have already run dry. Wanting to give him a completely different response than the one from the game, she addresses Prince Eldrad Fares and says she accepts ending their engagement. As Elmo Torte stands next to the smiling Prince Eldrad Fares, she thinks to herself that she completely saw this coming. She knew it was bound to happen because, as she and the prince watch the silver-haired noblewoman walk away, Elmo realizes that she is actually stuck inside the world of an otome game she used to play all the time. In fact, she has been reborn as none other than the story's main villainess, Elmo Torte. She remembers how all her memories from her past life suddenly flooded back when she was 12, making her maid and a young boy super worried as she held her head in pain. That was the exact moment she realized this place is the world of her favorite game. Who will the girl loved by spirit beasts fall for? The story takes place in a kingdom full of fairies, where the game's main girl, Lilia, is supposed to fall in love with one of the handsome guys you can win over. And out of all those guys she can choose from, one of them happens to be the silver-haired noblewoman's now ex-fiancé, Prince Eldrad. Since their engagement was just called off, she realizes they must have officially entered Eldrad's specific storyline in the game. But as it turns out, there is actually a secret hidden storyline buried deep inside his path. In this secret path, Lilia and Eldrad actually met when they were young, and they are bonded together by a cute little white tiger spirit beast they saved back then. She recalls that, in this specific route of the game's story, the villainous Elmo gets super jealous of Lilia and ends up creating a terrible sickness called the fever. This is a highly contagious disease that quickly spreads and strikes down people all over the royal capital. As the newly awakened Saint Lilia tries her best to cure the sickness, she ends up going head-to-head against Elmo, who is the root of all this evil. With both of them backed by powerful black and white tiger spirit beasts, they wage a massive battle that completely shakes the entire country. But the silver-haired noblewoman knows that when that final clash is over, it only leads to a truly awful and tragic end. Sitting inside a carriage, the silver-haired noblewoman realizes that since her engagement was broken off without the black and white spirit beasts ever appearing, things are looking up. It means she has thankfully avoided the hidden route, which would have led to the absolute worst ending. Of course, this also means she is officially disowned, but she remains completely calm about her situation. She figures that as long as she accepts what happened and leaves peacefully, she will be totally fine. With her mind made up, the carriage wheel screeches to a stop, bringing her to her destination. Stepping outside with her suitcase, the silver-haired noblewoman is super happy to finally arrive in the mountainous country of Sartia. Feeling pumped up and ready, the silver-haired noblewoman pumps her fist and tells herself that she is good to go. Carrying her suitcase, she decides she wants to spend her days living in total peace, completely free from any of the game's drama. But with that plan in mind, she knows she first has to find herself a house. She settles on Todol Village, which is far from the capital of Sartia, but has a guild and a big town nearby, making it easy to walk to work. To get started, she heads straight to see the landlord first, calling out as she reaches the door. A cheerful voice calls out in response, and the kind old woman opens the door with a warm smile, asking who has come to visit. The silver-haired noblewoman nervously speaks up, trying to explain her situation. The old landlady smiles warmly, realizing she is looking for a house, and mentions there is an abandoned detached home with its own field nearby. Hearing this, the silver-haired noblewoman gasps in surprise, asking if that is really true. The old landlady chuckles and says she would never lie to her, but tells her she needs to listen carefully first. It turns out that empty old house is rumored to be haunted. The silver-haired noblewoman looks completely caught off guard, repeating the words in disbelief. The old landlady cheerfully confirms that yes, ghosts definitely show up over at that place. The silver-haired noblewoman tells herself she never believed in ghosts anyway, but there is something else on her mind. She remembers her family slapping her, screaming that she brought them shame by failing to win the prince's heart, and asking if she was slacking off. She can't forget how her parents would get really angry just to protect their high status and titles. Then there were the rich families whispering behind her back, spreading lies and nasty rumors about her. And she especially remembers the heroine, who happily told nothing but lies just to get exactly what she wanted. To make matters worse, she still remembers the cold voice and freezing stare of her fiancé. This makes her realize she already knows things that are way more terrifying than any ghost. Suddenly, the old landlady snaps her out of her deep thoughts and kindly asks if she is all right. Seeing that she is fine, the old landlady asks if she wants to head over and check out the house right now. The silver-haired noblewoman quickly nods and says she wants to go, making the old landlady smile happily. The old landlady then tells her to follow along, cheerfully leading the way to her potential new home. The old landlady points out the cozy house and says she will unlock it for her right now, which makes the silver-haired noblewoman super excited to see inside. As they step inside, the silver-haired noblewoman is totally blown away by all the books, and the old landlady happily asks her what she thinks of the place. The old landlady says they are finally there and starts to unlock the door, while the silver-haired noblewoman politely asks her to open it. Once they are inside the room full of bookshelves, the silver-haired noblewoman gasps in surprise, and the old landlady eagerly asks how it looks to her. The silver-haired noblewoman smiles and says the house is absolutely amazing and looks wonderful. Seeing how happy she is, the old landlady asks if she really likes it and offers to let her have the house completely for free. The silver-haired noblewoman is totally shocked and asks if it is really for free, which the old landlady happily confirms. She can hardly believe her luck, staring in shock at the thought of getting a fully furnished house with a garden at no cost. Knowing she needs to give an answer right away, she realizes she will never find such a beautiful place for free anywhere else. With a bright smile, she makes up her mind and happily announces that she has decided to live here. The old landlady warmly agrees and hands over the key to her brand new home. As she heads out, the kind old landlady waves goodbye and tells her to just drop by her place if she ever needs anything. Looking around her new home, the silver-haired noblewoman is thrilled and can't believe she got such a nice house. She is amazed by how huge the place actually is, noting the big windows, the queen-size bed, and even a dining table and kitchen. There is also a study filled with lots of books, which makes the house feel more than big enough for just one person. She wonders if the previous owner was so scared of ghosts that they just left all of this furniture behind, but she quickly stops herself, deciding that she shouldn't worry about any of that right now. With a determined smile, she rolls up her sleeves, planning to air out the futon and get straight to work cleaning the place up. After tying up her hair and holding her duster, the silver-haired noblewoman takes a look at herself and decides she is ready to clean. She gets straight to work, opening up all the windows to let the fresh air in and shaking out the heavy futon. She makes sure to wipe down every single surface until the entire room is completely spotless. Though she notices the water in the house isn't running yet, she decides she will just ask the kind old landlady about it tomorrow. With the sun going down, she happily gets ready to start unpacking the rest of her things. Later that night, she sits on her bed and quietly thinks about the small amount of money her parents gave her when she finally left them. The silver-haired noblewoman looks at her trunk, noting she only has a few clothes, some underwear, and a few personal items she could sell. Since she managed to find a house right after arriving, she wonders if selling those things will let her get by without working for a little while. With that thought, she happily flops down onto the bed, deciding it is totally fine to just relax and take it easy for the rest of the day. She starts dreaming of all the free time she will have, like reading books in bed all day and baking the bread she loved so much in her past life. She even thinks about planting some seeds in the field to try her hand at growing her own fresh vegetables. Looking forward to her new beginning, the silver-haired noblewoman smiles warmly, realizing there are just so many things she wants to do now. Feeling exhausted after a long day, the silver-haired noblewoman decides to head to bed early. As she tucks herself in, she feels totally relaxed, loving how clean her bed smells, just like the warm sun. But just outside, someone's feet walk right up to her house, and a hand slowly turns the doorknob. With a quiet click, a mysterious figure in a hooded cloak opens the door and steps right into the house. Water drips heavily off the silent stranger as they stand there in the dark entryway. The dark-haired youth pulls back his hood with a heavy sigh, wondering if this pouring rain will finally stop by tomorrow. The dark-haired youth begins to pull off his wet shirt, but suddenly pauses with a confused hum. He looks down at the bed, completely confused, because he knows this place is supposed to have been empty for days. Touching the bedding, he notices that it does not smell dusty at all, and the futon feels surprisingly fluffy. Standing there in his underwear right next to the sleeping silver-haired noblewoman, he realizes this is bad and something is definitely wrong. But since he is at his absolute limit from exhaustion, his brain simply is not working, so he just climbs into the bed anyway. Meanwhile, the silver-haired noblewoman slowly opens her eyes, sleepily whispering that everything suddenly feels so bright. Waking up slowly, the silver-haired noblewoman wonders what time it is, thinking about how long it has been since she last had such a peaceful sleep. She shifts around under the covers, still enjoying the cozy warmth of her bed. But out of nowhere, she feels a strange movement and opens her eyes in confusion. She suddenly panics when she realizes someone is right next to her, wondering if it is that rumored ghost, though something about this feels completely different. Turning around, she gasps in shock to find the dark-haired youth sleeping right beside her, making her wonder who on earth this could be. Looking closely, she gets flustered by how super good-looking his sleeping face is, before quickly telling herself to stop and wait. The silver-haired noblewoman panics instantly, wondering why on earth there is a strange man sleeping right next to her. She looks closely at the sleeping dark-haired youth, who is totally out cold and completely peaceful. Gripping her blanket tightly, she worries that he might be some creepy guy who broke in after finding out a young woman just moved into the house. She nervously peeks under the covers to check, letting out a big sigh of relief when she sees he is at least wearing underwear. Sitting back, she still cannot help but wonder if this guy is just some weirdo who sneaks in just to sleep next to girls. But before she can think any further, the dark-haired youth groans and begins to stir, making her squeak in shock as she realizes he is waking up. Out of nowhere, both of them scream in shock as they suddenly realize they are sharing the same bed. She jumps up, super flustered, and yells at him to tell her who he is. The dark-haired youth looks totally relaxed and asks if she means him, calmly stating that he is actually the owner of the house. She calls him a liar straight to his face, insisting this is her place because the landlady gave it to her. But the dark-haired youth just sighs in annoyance, complaining that his grandmother has done this to him again. He grumbles about how he told her he would be gone for a while, wondering how many times she is going to pull this before she finally crosses the line. The silver-haired noblewoman gets really worried, wondering how the house could belong to him, since she was told the place was empty. The dark-haired youth quickly snaps back, saying he will repeat it as many times as it takes, that the house is definitely not empty. Flustered, she asks him what he means by that, and nervously wonders what she is supposed to do now. He explains that this is not just any ordinary house, leaving her completely confused. He proudly tells her that a wizard lives here, and as he shows off a magical dark flame, she gasps in shock at the word. She suddenly remembers her past school days, happily reading books in her uniform, next to a quiet, dark-haired classmate. The dark-haired youth casually drops a massive reveal that this is actually a witch's house, which leaves the silver-haired noblewoman completely shocked as she stammers out the word witch in disbelief. The dark-haired youth simply nods and calmly confirms that yes, she heard him right. It really is a witch's house. Although he complains that it is a major pain, the dark-haired youth searches the kitchen cupboards while mentioning he needs to head over to his grandmother's house, leaving the silver-haired noblewoman watching him in awkward silence. Out of nowhere, he points his finger toward the stove and magically lights a fire, making her gasp in utter surprise. As a freshly brewed drink starts to drip into a mug, the silver-haired noblewoman stares at it, wondering if what she just saw was actually real magic. She silently thinks about how she only ever learned about magic in school classes, but looking at the dark-haired youth holding his warm drink, she realizes she never actually believed it existed in the real world. Feeling completely overwhelmed by everything that is happening, Elmo looks at the stranger and demands to know who he actually is. The young man introduces himself as Guru, mentioning that he is 18 years old, before asking her for her name. Still a bit nervous, and caught off guard by his casual attitude, she softly replies that her name is Elmo. She adds that she is also 18 years old, and politely tells him that it is nice to meet him. Guru takes a bite of food while thinking about her name, pointing out that she is surprisingly polite. But then Elmo's eyes go wide and she yells at him for eating her bread, leaving Guru looking totally confused. Guru looks confused and asks if the bread he is eating is actually hers. He casually says it tasted much better than usual and claims he only took a tiny bit, but Elmo yells that he definitely took way more than that. He just smiles and tells her to think of it as her payment for letting her stay the night. Elmo is totally shocked by this and loudly tells him that she is not leaving. Guru points out that this is his house anyway, so he tells Elmo she needs to go back to her own home. Elmo looks really sad and mutters that going back is simply impossible for her. Guru is totally caught off guard by her situation and asks her if she is some kind of runaway. Elmo quickly denies it, explaining that she did not run away, but was actually kicked out of her own house. Hearing this, Guru is completely shocked and just stares at her in surprise. After a long, quiet pause, he rubs the back of his neck and sighs, clearly feeling a bit bad for her. Out of nowhere, he holds out a hot mug and tells her to take it. Elmo looks down at the warm drink, feeling a bit flustered as she wonders what this gesture is all about. Guru hands a drink over to Elmo and tells her to wait there while he goes to get changed. Elmo is left standing there completely blank, carefully holding the warm mug in her hands. When she takes a sip, she is surprised by how sweet it is, making her think that maybe he is not a bad guy after all. A moment later, Guru comes back fully dressed in a cloak and tells Elmo that they are heading over to Granny's place right now. Elmo instantly dives under the covers and refuses to go, but Guru tells her too bad because they are leaving anyway. He yanks the blanket off and tells her they cannot just leave things like this, even as she tries to complain. Guru warns Elmo that if she refuses to go, he has his own ways of making her, but she still tries to protest. Suddenly, he grabs her arm and starts pulling her, making Elmo shout out in complete surprise. He easily lifts her up in his arms, saying he can just carry her all the way there if he has to. Looking super flustered, Guru snaps that this is embarrassing for him too, while Elmo asks if he is actually sure about this. Blushing red from embarrassment, Elmo quickly gives in and begs him to put her down, promising that she will go. Once she is finally dressed, Guru leads her into the building and loudly calls out to see if Granny is home. Granny looks up with a warm smile, wondering what all the noise is about, and chuckles when she realizes it is just Guru. Guru snaps back at her completely flustered, shouting that he only went out to pick some herbs and accusing her of making up weird stories. But Granny totally ignores his complaining, teasingly pointing out how cute Elmo is before telling him to come over for a second. A super embarrassed Guru nervously leans in closer to ask what she wants, while Elmo just stands back, watching the two of them. As Granny starts whispering some big secret directly into Guru's ear, Elmo is left standing there completely clueless. Whatever Granny says totally catches him off guard, making his entire face turn bright red as he yells out in shock. Guru is completely flustered, yelling at Granny for trying to make this look like a done deal when he always warns her not to do unnecessary things, while Elmo just stands in the background looking totally confused. Granny just smiles and rests her cheek on her hand, teasing him that if she doesn't push him like this, he'll always be too shy to make a move. Guru snaps back that his shyness has absolutely nothing to do with this, though he hesitates and starts to trail off. Before he can stop himself, he buries his head in his hands on the table and blurt out that there is no way he could ever make a move on a girl as cute as Elmo anyway. Hearing this confession, Granny is absolutely delighted and claps her hands, saying she knew they were a perfect match from the moment she first saw Elmo. An incredibly embarrassed Guru just throws his hands up in frustration, screaming that she is completely missing the point. Looking at how happy his grandmother is, a super flustered Elmo has no idea what to do and nervously tries to get their attention. She holds her hands together nervously as both Granny and Guru turn to look at her, but she can only stutter out a couple of words. Guru quickly steps in to protect her, telling Granny to stop making Elmo feel so uncomfortable. He clenches his fists with a serious look, reminding them that he still has things he needs to get done. Granny looks up at him gently and tells Guru that it is completely fine if things do not work out in the end. But Guru is not having it, looking incredibly determined as he says he is definitely not going to give up. Guru gently reassures Granny that he is doing fine because he is not alone. But Granny still worries, making Elmo realize she is interrupting a private family moment. Feeling like a total outsider who really shouldn't be listening to their personal business, Elmo begins to quietly step away. But since she has absolutely no other choice but to rely on them right now, she swallows her nerves and calls out to get their attention. She bows deeply and asks if either Guru or Granny would please let her stay at one of their houses until she can find a job. Hearing her ask to stay at his home completely shocks Guru, while Granny just stands there smiling playfully at his reaction. After a very nervous gulp from Elmo, Guru hesitantly replies that his place is actually fine, but there is just one little catch. Granny smiles and points out that her place is actually a bit too cramped for two people to live in. Hearing this, Guru quickly steps up and offers his own place, explaining that he will be away picking herbs starting tomorrow anyway. Guru nervously asks if she is really sure about this, while a beaming Elmo holds his hands and thanks him. Getting super flustered, Guru blushes bright red and tells Elmo to let go of his hand. Elmo quickly pulls away and apologizes, admitting she only did it because she got way too excited. As the two stand there awkwardly, Granny looks on with a smile and calls out Elmo's name. Granny feels bad about what happened before and sincerely apologizes to Elmo, but Elmo smiles warmly and tells her there is absolutely no need to worry about it. Besides, she is already on the move, her feet quickly pattering across the floor. She explains she just needs to find another place to stay and tells Guru she is heading out but will be back by evening, which he quietly accepts. With a polite goodbye, she excuses herself and steps outside into the woods. Elmo smiles to herself, feeling really happy that they agreed to let her stay for a while. Elmo knows she cannot just rely on their kindness forever, so she tells herself she has to find a live-in job right away. She pumps her fists with a big smile, completely determined to do her absolute best. Meanwhile, back at the cottage, Guru calls out to Granny to get her attention. He looks a bit flustered and starts to explain something that has been on his mind. Granny just smiles and says she already knows, teasing him about how he has taken a liking to Elmo, and reminding him that once their family sets their eyes on someone, there is no stopping them. Guru gets even more nervous and admits he knows, but he still looks pretty worried about how things will go. Guru clenches his fist in frustration, admitting he is terrified Elmo will hate him if she ever sees his true form. Granny looks on and agrees, gently reminding him that they really are different from normal humans after all. She points out that this is especially true for his kind, which leaves him standing there in anxious silence. But then she smiles warmly and says it is just a gut feeling, but she thinks Elmo might actually be totally fine with it. This completely catches him off guard, and he immediately asks her what on earth she is basing that guess on. Granny simply laughs and teasingly says she is the perfect example, since she was deeply in love herself back in the day. Granny happily looks over at a framed photo of her late husband and asks him if he agrees with her. Guru looks at the photo and remembers how they were the absolute closest couple in the entire village when he was just a kid, and how much he looked up to them. He fondly recalls how they shared the kind of wonderful relationship that absolutely anyone would envy. Seeing Granny talk so lovingly to the photo makes Guru smile softly and say her name under his breath. Granny then gets busy pouring some warm tea and happily brings a mug over to him. As they settle down, Guru calls out to Granny, and she looks up with a cheerful hum to hear what he has to say. Guru thinks out loud to Granny, noting that Elmo acts just like a lady from a rich noble family. He adds that on top of her manners, Elmo also mentioned this morning that she has absolutely nowhere to go home to. Hearing this, Granny takes a sip from her cup and thoughtfully repeats the idea of her being a noble lady. Granny agrees that Elmo definitely has a super elegant way of standing and walking, but since there are no local rumors about a kicked-out noble lady, she guesses Elmo must have come from somewhere far away. Guru looks down and softly agrees that she might be right. Granny cheerfully tells him that if Elmo marries a kind boy like him, she will smile a lot more, so he has to do his absolute best to win her over. Guru sits back with a warm cup of tea and decides he is just going to do things his own way. Granny smilingly agrees that might be for the best, teasingly adding that he would probably just mess up by trying too hard to look cool. Feeling super embarrassed by her teasing, Guru blushes and yells out in protest. He stands up and thanks her for the tea, prompting Granny to ask if he is already heading out. Putting on his cloak, Guru explains he is delivering potions to the guild in the capital and asks if she needs anything while he is there. Granny happily requests some of their famous cream puffs, suggesting he get some for Elmo too, which Guru cheerfully promises to bring back. Elmo arrives in town and is completely amazed by how bustling and lively everything is. She looks around and notices all the different food stalls lined up along the street. There is even a small adventurers guild with its own sign hanging nearby. As she watches the locals walk past, she wonders if she can find a place to work in this town. She thinks a busy food shop would be super nice, so she pumps herself up to start looking. However, she stops to look at a piece of paper in her hands and hums to herself as she tries to figure it out. Looking over her options, Elmo notes that the places hiring are a bakery, a diner, and a tavern, but she really wants a job that offers room and board. She imagines herself working during the day, maybe serving fresh bread at a bakery, or helping out at a diner. Or she could also work at a tavern at night, carrying drinks and serving customers, but when she goes to check them out, she is disappointed to find that both the bakery and the diner are already closed for the afternoon. That just leaves the tavern, which opens before evening and is already packed with people drinking. She peeks inside and thinks the staff uniforms are super cute, but she seems a little nervous about the busy crowd. As Elmo looks at the tavern waitress, she realizes the uniform design really emphasizes the chest. To make things even more nerve-wracking, she notices the skirt is super short too. Elmo wonders if she could ever fit into those clothes, wishing she had just a little more size, because even though she has some chest, she is not sure it is quite enough. But out of nowhere, someone calls out to her from behind, giving her a huge fright. It is Guru, who warns her that a young woman hanging around a place like this is bound to get snatched up by a bad guy, which leaves her totally shocked to see him. blushing deeply. Elmo looks at him in complete disbelief and asks why he is even here. A blushing Elmo asks Guru if he was planning to get a drink, excitedly telling him that he has come to the perfect spot. Thinking she can finally see the inside of the tavern if he goes in with her, she calls out his name and grabs his wrist, suggesting they go in together before squeaking in surprise. But out of nowhere, her plan completely fails as he ignores her and silently begins dragging her away. Still super confused by his reaction, she looks over at him and asks if he really didn't come here to grab a drink. Guru bluntly replies that he does not drink at taverns, warning her that it is far too dangerous for her to be there alone and that they are going home. As he continues to pull her along, she asks if he actually came to pick her up because he was worried, but he flatly says no. As they walk together, Elmo thinks to herself about how kind Guru actually is, but Guru notices her smiling and asks what she is laughing at. Looking super flustered, Elmo blushes and quickly stammers that it is nothing at all. With their hands still locked together, the two of them head back to his place. Once they get inside, Guru takes off his cloak and confronts her, demanding to know if she was really planning to work in a wild tavern like that. Sitting on a chair, Elmo looks away nervously, but honestly admits that she was. Hearing this, Guru completely rejects the idea, telling her she should just live there instead of working at a tavern, suggesting she work during the day and help him out the rest of the time. Elmo is completely shocked by his offer and loudly asks if it is really okay for her to live with him. Guru quickly reassures her that it is totally fine, standing tall and promising he will never go back on his word. He gently points out that she doesn't have any home to return to anyway, so she can just rely on them whenever she needs help. Elmo holds her hands in her lap and quietly asks him if it's really all right to be so kind to her, still unable to believe it. She thinks back to how things used to be, remembering how she always stood alone holding her books while other students happily chatted around her. Back then, people would constantly whisper, point, and gossip behind her back, making her feel completely shut out from everyone else. Unable to keep her feelings bottled up, Elmo's eyes begin to fill with tears. Soon, the emotions completely take over, and tears start streaming down her face. This completely startles Guru, who panics and asks if his offer is really something she should be crying about. Elmo explains that she always tried to hold back her tears when she was feeling lonely, but his kindness makes her so happy that she just has to thank him. She playfully blames him for making her cry and repeats just how grateful she is to him. Seeing how much this means to her, Guru gets a little blush on his face and gently tells her it is okay. As Elmo clings to him, Guru gently pats her head and tells her to stop crying because he completely understands. With that settled, Elmo officially begins living under Guru's roof. The next morning, she slowly wakes up in a comfy bed as the sun begins to rise. She tells herself she needs to get up and get ready, only to realize Guru is sleeping peacefully right beside her. She instantly freezes, her face turning bright red in utter disbelief. Realizing they actually shared the very same bed, Elmo lets out a giant scream of total shock. Elmo wakes up to a massive shock, realizing that Guru is actually hugging her in his sleep, which instantly makes her start to panic. Unable to hold it in, she lets out a loud scream and bolts upright, though Guru somehow stays fast asleep. Blushing furiously, she covers her face in deep regret over what she said, wondering how on earth things ended up like this. The whole mess actually started the night before, when the two of them stood by the bed in awkward silence. Elmo insisted that Guru should be the one to use the bed, but he immediately argued back that she should sleep on it. Guru claimed he was perfectly fine sleeping on the floor, but Elmo kept arguing to take the floor herself, prompting Guru to say he could never let a girl sleep on the hard ground. Elmo feels like their stubborn argument is getting them absolutely nowhere. Blushing hard, she suddenly suggests that they just share the bed. This completely shocks Guru, who gasps in surprise and asks if she even realizes what she is saying. Elmo quickly insists that it will be perfectly fine as long as they make sure to keep some distance between them. Guru nervously scratches his neck and asks if she is really okay with this, promising he won't touch her at all. But as soon as the words leave her mouth, Elmo starts to panic, realizing she got way too carried away. Sitting up in bed, Elmo suddenly panics, realizing that sharing a bed with a man might actually be a terrible idea. She glances over at Guru, noticing that he is sleeping peacefully without a single care in the world. Telling herself she is just overthinking the whole thing, she decides she should just try to get some sleep. When she wakes up, she is shocked to find him right next to her, reminding herself they were safely apart before sleeping. And while she knows it is her own fault for suggesting this, she still feels totally flustered. Looking down at him, she can't help but think he has a really beautiful sleeping face, as he lets out a soft, sleepy mumble. Suddenly, Guru opens his eyes, realizes it is morning, and gives Elmo a warm morning greeting with a smile. Elmo is super flustered as her heart beats wildly, and she can barely stutter out a nervous good morning. But she quickly panics in her head, wondering why on earth he is hugging her so tightly while he is still asleep. Blushing like crazy, she tells him she is going to get ready first and runs out of bed, leaving a very confused Guru calling after her. She slams the bedroom door shut behind her, leaning against it to catch her breath after getting such a big shock. Holding her hot cheeks, she worries that if every single morning is going to be this intense, her poor heart won't be able to handle it. After changing her clothes and tying her apron, Elmo turns around as Guru walks in, and she warmly greets him. Pointing to a basket of fresh vegetables on the counter, Elmo asks if she can use the ingredients, and Guru happily tells her to take whatever she likes. She warmly suggests making fried eggs, bread, and a simple salad, which makes Guru ask if she is actually going to cook for him. With a bright smile, she says yes, wanting to return the favor since he treated her to dinner the night before. But as she steps up to the frying pan, she gets confused and asks how to use the stove, prompting Guru to suddenly ask if she has magic power. Hearing this, Elmo stands there completely blank-faced, wondering why on earth she would need magic to cook. She starts thinking back to her academy days, remembering how the magic measuring device reacted when she tried to use it. When Elmo mentions she probably has a pretty average amount of magic, Guru suggests she try touching the stove to find out. A bit confused, Elmo asks if she really just needs to touch it, as she carefully places her hand onto the magic circle. Out of nowhere, she lets out a little squeak of surprise when the circle suddenly sparks to life with fire. Super excited, Elmo calls out to Guru that the fire actually started and asks if it is a real magic circle, which he confirms, explaining she can easily cast magic by channeling her power through it. He reveals he specially made this circle to react to even tiny amounts of magic so she could easily use it when he is not around, and she warmly thanks him for being so incredibly helpful. With that part sorted out, Guru stretches his arms up and gets ready to show her what to do next. Guru sets out the seasonings and cooking tools, telling Elmo she can ask if she needs anything else, and she happily thanks him. Checking the box, Elmo finds olive oil, vinegar, salt, pepper, and soup stock, getting herself pumped up to start cooking. She decides on a simple menu, starting with toast brushed with olive oil and salt, followed by some fresh fried eggs. To finish the meal, she plans a light onion soup and a fresh salad with her own homemade dressing. Once everything is finally ready, Elmo carries the food over and apologizes to Guru for making him wait. Seeing the lovely spread, Guru says it looks absolutely delicious and suggests they start eating right away. Guru takes his very first bite of the breakfast she prepared. He blushes and says it is super delicious, adding how nice it feels to have someone cook for him so they can eat together. Elmo giggles happily and agrees that sharing a meal with another person is definitely something special. They both clasp their hands together at the table and say, "Thanks for the wonderful meal." Guru mentions that he will be leaving the house before noon and asks Elmo what she has planned for the day. She happily tells him that she is planning to go to a local bakery for a job interview. To make sure she stays safe, Guru hands Elmo a small item and tells her to speak into it if she runs into any trouble. Elmo carefully takes it from him, wondering if it is just some kind of card. Guru explains that if she speaks while touching the magic circle, her voice will reach his card, and he tells her to go ahead and try it out. Elmo happily agrees and decides to give the magical communication card a try. After hearing her test voice come right through, Elmo is super amazed that it actually worked, while Guru warns her to be really careful since it is a super valuable item. Holding the precious card close to her chest with both hands, Elmo promises him that she understands. Standing by the door, Guru gets ready to leave and gives Elmo a simple nod, saying all right. Before stepping out, he turns back to warn her to be careful and not go following any weirdos while he is gone. Elmo waves back with a bright smile, promising she knows and telling him to take care. Once he is gone, she pumps her fists with excitement, telling herself she will do her absolute best at her upcoming job interview. Meanwhile, Guru makes his way deep into the quiet, thick forest on his own. He stops near a large tree and kneels down, carefully holding up a small, glowing stone. Guru is out in the quiet woods, kneeling down to carefully look at a plant and gather some leaves. But out of nowhere, he gets distracted as a soft voice calls out to him. He pulls out his magic communication card and is surprised to hear Elmo asking if he can hear her, so he calls out her name to check. Guru immediately smiles and warmly asks Elmo what is going on. Snuggled up in bed, Elmo happily explains that she wanted to wish him a good night and give him a quick update. She shares the great news that she got the job and will start working at a bakery in the next town tomorrow. Guru is super happy to hear Elmo got the job and warns her to be careful on her way there, While she explains, she just wanted to let him know right away and apologizes for calling so late before saying goodnight. Guru smiles warmly as he holds up his magic card, wishing Elmo a sweet goodnight. Once the call ends, Guru lets out a quiet sigh as he sits in the dark woods. Looking up at the night sky, he realizes it is almost a full moon. He looks down at his hands, thinking about how he is normally totally fine with being all by himself. But now, he admits to himself that he has never felt this lonely before, wondering what other people do when they feel this way. Guru thinks about the advice he got, wondering if he really is just supposed to keep pushing and pushing. He is terrified that if he goes too far and she ends up hating him, he won't ever be able to recover. Plus, he is super worried that if Elmo ever finds out his true identity, she might just run away. He really wants to believe what his grandma told him before, that things won't turn out like that, but he still can't shake his doubts. Deciding it is no use, he gets up to head home, admitting to himself that all he really wants right now is to see Elmo. But just as he turns to leave, a voice suddenly calls out to him, hesitantly calling him brother. Walking through the dark woods, Guru wonders if his older brother used to feel the exact same way back then. Meanwhile, back in town, someone calls out Elmo's name in a warm, busy kitchen. She quickly answers with a cheerful yes, while holding a big basket of fresh bread. The older baker apologizes for the trouble and asks if she can handle the register for a bit. Elmo happily says she has got it covered. It has already been a whole week since she started her new part-time job working at this bakery. Elmo feels like even though there are a lot of tough things in her life, she has somehow managed to get used to it all. It is pretty crazy to think that her memories from her past life would actually end up being this useful to her now. Back then, she spent so many of her days totally devoted to buying new games right on their release day. As she hands some bread to a customer and thanks them, she quietly reminds herself that she needs to find a way to stand on her own 2 feet soon. Just then, she looks up to greet the next customer with a warm and energetic welcome. A friendly man steps into the shop, waving hello and pointing out that she is a fresh new face he has never seen before. When a friendly regular named Jen walks in, he gets a warm welcome and immediately asks if they hired a new part-timer. A voice from behind the counter happily confirms that is exactly the case. Elmo steps up with a bright smile, proudly sharing that she has been working there since last week. Jen curiously asks how old she is, and Elmo cheerfully tells him she is 18. Hearing this, Jen remarks on how young she is and wishes he were 10 years younger, which catches Elmo completely off guard. But the senior baker just laughs, teasing Jen that he does not stand a chance anyway. Jen laughs and tells Elmo she doesn't have to deny it so much, before teasingly asking if she has a boyfriend, which completely catches her off guard. Elmo quickly insists she doesn't have anyone like that in her life, prompting Jen to playfully suggest he should put himself forward as a candidate. He lets out a curious hum and reaches his hand out toward her. Elmo is left totally stunned when he suddenly touches her face and gently lifts her chin. Meanwhile, the dark-haired potion maker finishes his latest potion delivery, happily holding up a heavy bag of coins from the successful sales. Realizing it is still pretty early in the day, he decides he might as well head over to the bakery to check in on things. As the dark-haired potion maker walks down the street, he catches a delicious whiff of freshly baked bread coming from nearby. He briefly wonders if Elmo is actually working hard today, but he quickly shakes his head and dismisses the thought. But as he looks through the shop window, his jaw drops in total shock when he spots a man getting super close to her inside. He freezes completely on the spot, staring in utter disbelief at the intimate scene playing out right before his eyes. Meanwhile, Elmo wraps up her shift, politely saying goodbye to her coworker, who praises her hard work and tells her she will see her tomorrow. Walking home with a bag full of fresh bread, Elmo feels super relieved and proud that she somehow made it through another busy week. Elmo is super happy to be heading home, feeling really lucky to get such a big bag of fresh bread. But down the street, Guru is standing in an alley when he suddenly spots her in the distance. Recognizing him, Elmo happily calls out his name, and he immediately turns around and calls out to her in return. When they meet up, she notices his serious expression and gently asks if something is wrong. He starts to ask her about what happened earlier, but he quickly loses his nerve and insists it is nothing. His awkward behavior instantly catches her off guard, making her wonder what he is hiding. Elmo speaks up, saying what just happened was definitely not nothing, and immediately notices they aren't even walking the right way home. Guru just looks back slightly and replies that they are just taking a little detour. He keeps moving ahead, leaving Elmo to cry out in surprise and call after him to wait. Looking at his quiet back, she starts to worry and wonders if she did something wrong to upset him. On top of that, Elmo struggles to keep up because he is walking incredibly fast. It's a real shame, since she was actually hoping to talk to him about her part-time job and a bunch of other things. As she rushes to keep up, Elmo can't help but wonder what is going on with Guru to make him act so weirdly. She realizes they are making a detour to an old lady's house, and Guru just shrugs off her confusion, calling out to his granny that he is grabbing some vegetables. Elmo is a bit worried and asks him if it is really okay for them to just take the food like that. Guru assures her it is perfectly fine, pulling off his cloak as he tells her to set her bags down and step closer, which she nervously agrees to do. He stands right in front of her, showing her his back and telling her to take a look right there. But when she finally sees what is on his back, Elmo lets out a soft gasp of pure surprise. Elmo is totally shocked to find a huge field hidden right behind the house, realizing she couldn't see it at all from the front. Guru smiles and explains that he always gets some fresh vegetables in exchange for helping out with the farm work. Looking at the tall stalks, Elmo asks if it is corn, and Guru happily confirms that it is indeed harvest season right now. Elmo mentions that this is actually her very first time harvesting vegetables, which clearly catches Guru off guard. Guru holds out a freshly picked ear of corn for her, and Elmo's eyes spark with excitement as she admires it. But out of nowhere, they suddenly lock eyes, leaving both of them feeling a little startled and flustered. Feeling super flustered, Guru suddenly drops down, making a worried Elmo quickly apologize. Guru sneaks a quick glance back, while Elmo stands there holding her hands close to her chest, feeling really shy. Trying to break the awkward silence, Elmo asks if they should make some corn soup, and Guru distractedly agrees. Not liking his distant reaction, Elmo lets out a quiet little pout. She runs up behind him and calls out Guru's name to get his attention. Guru turns around with a startled look, clearly surprised to hear Elmo calling after him. Elmo steps right up to Guru and tells him he is acting super weird today, pleading with him to let her know if she did something wrong because it makes her sad when he gets like this. Guru stammers nervously, but Elmo just keeps staring at him in complete silence. Feeling the pressure of her intense gaze, Guru finally gives in and shouts that he will tell her what is on his mind. He blushes deeply and blurts out his assumption that she is already dating someone, asking if it is really okay for her to be hanging out with a guy like him. Hearing this, Elmo's eyes go wide in absolute shock. She lets out a loud shout of disbelief, leaving a flustered Guru turning away in total embarrassment. Elmo yells out in total disbelief that she does not have anyone like that, which makes Guru look incredibly embarrassed. Guru gets highly defensive and stammers that he literally saw her getting her face super close to some guy at the bakery and looking like she was having a great time. He explains that it is not right to live with another guy when you have a boyfriend, which is why he thought he had to keep his distance, leaving Elmo completely blank and speechless. But out of nowhere, he hears her starting to let out a little snicker. Elmo bursts into happy laughter once she realizes what is going on, which only makes an incredibly flustered Guru shout and ask why she is laughing at him. She cheerfully explains that a customer was just brushing some lint off her hat, assuring him that there is absolutely nothing going on. Guru stands there completely frozen, letting out a shocked sound as the truth finally hits him. He collapses to the ground in total embarrassment, sweating as he realizes what a giant misunderstanding this entire thing actually was. Blushing like crazy, he turns to her and grumpily tells her not to laugh at him so much. But seeing him like this, Elmo smiles gently, feeling like all the deep anxiety she had until just a second ago has completely vanished. Needing an escape, Guru covers his face and loudly declares that they've talked enough and are going straight home. As they start walking, Elmo secretly giggles at how even his ears are bright red, while Guru keeps kicking himself for worrying so much over nothing. As they walk back home past the fields, Elmo wonders to herself if Guru was actually just jealous back there. Looking down at her bag, she suddenly realizes she is carrying a really large amount of bread. She happily explains to Guru that she only got this much because the shop couldn't sell it all. But she can't resist teasing him a little, smiling, as she says she actually wanted to bring up his reaction from earlier. A super flustered Guru groans in embarrassment and snaps that he already apologized for acting like that. Hoping to make peace, he sheepishly smiles and promises to cook dinner tonight if she will just forgive him. Elmo holds onto her bag of fresh bread, cheerily saying how much she is looking forward to whatever they are doing next. Out of nowhere, Guru stops and holds out his hand, calling out Elmo's name and catching her completely off guard. Looking deeply apologetic and flustered, Guru sincerely apologizes for his behavior today, asking if she can find it in her heart to forgive him while offering to carry her heavy bags. After taking the bag from her, a playful Elmo teases him by asking what she should do about his apology, making Guru pout and grumble for her not to be so mean. As they head through the town streets, Elmo waves happily and calls out Guru's name. Turning back with a sweet, slightly embarrassed smile, Guru tells Elmo she did a great job today as she walks off. When Guru meets up with Elmo, he asks if he kept her waiting, but she sweetly tells him it's totally fine. He asks if they should get going, and she happily agrees. As they walk, Elmo explains she needs clothes that are easy to move around in because she is going to help gather herbs. So today, the two of them are officially out on a shopping trip together. Guru spots a shop and points out some outfits that might work for her. Elmo gets super excited, trying on a cute cloak, while Guru picks out a pair of pants to go with it. When Guru asks if they should pick up some bloomers next, Elmo quickly shuts down the idea, leaving Guru laughing off the embarrassing moment as they carry their shopping bag. As they stroll past the town shops, Guru suddenly pauses and gasps as a beautiful dress in a display window catches his eye. He points it out, calling over to Elmo to take a look, which leaves her wondering what he has spotted. Turning to the shop door, Guru blushes and tells Elmo that he thinks the dress would look absolutely wonderful on her. Before she can even process it, Guru gets super flustered and begs her to please just try it on, leaving her completely stunned. Gulping nervously as she looks at the fancy ruffled dress, Elmo admits it is really cute, but she is clearly hesitant to go through with it. Elmo nervously smiles and points out that they have already bought so much today, and she really does not have any extra money right now. She tries to laugh it off, saying she should probably just pass on the dress for today. But Guru just stares right at her with a super intense, blushing look, quietly begging her to try it on. Completely defeated by his cute look, Elmo gets super flustered and stammers that she will try it on since they are already here. A moment later, Elmo steps out of the changing room wearing the lovely ruffled dress and calls out to Guru to show him. Seeing how amazing she looks, Guru is completely stunned and can only stare at her with a dazed, blushing face. Elmo steps out in the lovely dress, blushing a bit, as she nervously asks Guru if it looks good on her. Guru is completely frozen and can barely speak, but then he suddenly yells out that she is super cute, which makes Elmo smile and thank him. Elmo is touched that he went out of his way to compliment her, so she silently decides she might buy the dress once she has some extra money. But out of nowhere, Guru points to the dress and tells the shop assistant he will buy it, leaving Elmo completely shocked. Elmo quickly calls out to Guru to stop him as he heads off to pay for the dress. But Guru just blushes and says he is buying it simply because he wants to see her wear it, telling Elmo not to worry about it at all. As the shop assistant hands Guru the wrapped dress, Elmo freezes in pure shock before letting out a massive scream. Guru is super happy with his purchase as they walk down the street, while a pouting Elmo follows behind and yells his name. But as they keep walking, Elmo suddenly gets quiet and looks like she has something on her mind. She softly starts to thank him for buying the dress, but she still feels a bit uneasy. She looks right at him and apologizes, saying she feels bad for always relying on him so much. Instead of saying anything, Guru just looks down at her with a super warm and gentle smile. Out of nowhere, Guru taps Elmo right on her forehead, catching her completely off guard as she lets out a little squeak. She is left totally confused, stammering in surprise as she touches her forehead and realizes he just put a bandage on it. Guru smiles warmly and explains that he only bought the dress because he wanted to, asking her to simply promise him that she will wear it. He then points out that she is already helping him gather herbs the very next day. Because of that, he tells her there is absolutely no need to worry about it. Hearing his sweet reassurance, Elmo blushes deeply and happily agrees with a bright, beautiful smile. Guru decides it is time to head back for the night, since they have a really early start tomorrow. As they walk back together, Elmo quietly thinks to herself that she would love to buy him a nice present once she gets paid. The next morning quickly arrives, and they are finally ready to head out. When Elmo notices a glowing pattern on the ground and asks if it is a magic circle, Guru confirms that they are traveling by teleportation magic. Guru tells her to wrap her arms tightly around his waist so they do not get separated, and a blushing Elmo nervous agrees. With a reassuring smile, Guru tells her, "Here they go," as the magic begins to activate. Elmo lets out a little squeal as the magic circle beneath their feet starts to glow. She looks super excited, realizing she is actually experiencing teleportation magic for the first time. Guru kindly tells her to keep her eyes closed if she is scared. She quickly agrees to do just that. Once Guru tells her they have arrived, Elmo opens her eyes and lets out a big gasp of surprise. Looking out at the beautiful green trees, she is amazed that they really traveled all this way in just a second. But as she stares at the trees, she suddenly gets a strange feeling and wonders if she has been to this forest before. Looking around, Elmo notices a specific tree stump and realizes that flowers are blooming around it in a super weird, unnatural way. This place is actually the Spirit Forest, the exact spot where the game's heroine Lilia and Prince Eldrad saved a white spirit beast when they were just kids. She realizes that if this world is just like her favorite game, there should be a hidden beastman village buried deep inside this very forest. The only problem is that the forest has a special magic spell on it, designed to keep humans from ever entering. But she easily remembers the exact cheat code from the game: up, right, down, left, and up. which is the secret path to reach the village. Since she absolutely loved beastmen back then, she used to play this part and visit them all the time, so she knows the way by heart. As Elmo stands looking around the quiet forest, Guru notices her distraction and asks her what is wrong. Elmo quickly claims it is nothing, but Guru wonders if she is telling the truth and warns her to stay focused since they are splitting up. She then asks what kind of herbs they are supposed to be looking for, and Guru points to a plant, telling her it is called Artemisia. He explains that if you dry and roast it, the plant becomes tea leaves, which have been super popular in the capital lately. Elmo looks closely at the herb, really excited, and checks if she just needs to fill her basket with them. Guru asks if she will be okay working alone, and Elmo happily says that of course she will do great, and gets right to work. Elmo carefully pushes through the thick forest branches, keeping her eyes peeled as she searches the woods. She walks deeper into the quiet forest, following the path she remembers. After searching through the thick bushes, she suddenly spots a glowing herb and gets super excited. She lets out a tired sigh of relief after all that hard work. Looking down at her basket, she is surprised to see she ended up gathering way more herbs than she expected. She smiles, thinking about how even though the work is hard, every day has been so much fun lately, and she never thought she would get to live such a peaceful life. Elmo tells herself she has to be happy, enough to completely forget about the prince and Lilia. Suddenly, a quiet voice starts speaking from the shadows, whispering Lilia's name. Elmo is completely caught off guard and spins around, demanding to know how they know that name. Confused, she looks around the trees and calls out to see if someone is really there. The voice angrily demands an answer again, and Elmo is shocked to find she actually recognizes who it is. She gasps in surprise, realizing the person is standing right behind her. Elmo lets out a loud scream as she gets startled by something. Deep in the forest, the dark-haired traveler stops in his tracks when he hears the noise. He quickly turns around, instantly recognizing her voice, and wondering if it is really Elmo out there. Without wasting a second, he runs as fast as he can through the dirt, panting heavily. Pushing the leaves aside, he calls out to see what happened to her, but he cuts himself off when he finds Elmo sitting safely on the ground, happily holding on to a cute little tiger-striped beast. Elmo smiles a bit nervously as the little tiger-striped beast in her arms lets out a tiny growl. Seeing this, the dark-haired traveler is completely frozen in shock, his eyes wide with disbelief. He stares at them and asks in pure confusion if the creature is actually his brother. While Elmo holds it up in silence, the little beast just makes a cute squeaking noise. Elmo notices the strange stripes on its back and tilts her head, completely confused by what she is seeing. But the little creature just looks right at her and lets out another funny roar. First, Elmo notices the creature's cute striped ears, and then she spots its long, striped tail swaying from its backside. She is absolutely thrilled by how adorable it is, wondering if it's actually a baby tiger. But then she remembers something and asks Guru who this little guy really is, since he called it his brother. Hearing this, Guru is totally caught off guard and looks completely flustered. He stays quiet for a second, sweating nervously as he tries to find a way to explain. The dark-haired traveler laughs and explains to Elmo that he and the little beast grew up together, so they are basically like brothers. He is still super shocked though, asking the little guy why in the world he went back into the dangerous forest. He lets him know that he has been looking absolutely everywhere to find him, but as he looks closer, the traveler notices something on the cub's leg and tilts his head. He reaches his hand out to check, asking what happened to make such a wound. Out of nowhere, the little beast glares and leaps straight at his face with a loud screech, making the traveler scream in surprise while Elmo watches. Lure yelps in pain when the little beast nips him, but he still scolds the tiger, asking if he knows how hard everyone looked and how worried they all were. Elmo tells the roaring little beast to stop thrashing around so she can focus on healing him. Guru raises his glowing hand and uses his magic to heal the little tiger, while Elmo watches in surprise. He asks the happy beast if there are any other injuries now that he is all healed up, and the little tiger lets out a joyful cry. Relieved that the little guy is okay, Guru warns him never to disappear without a word again, while Elmo happily watches them get along. Elmo smiles and mentions how they seem incredibly close, noting that it almost feels like they can understand each other's words perfectly. Guru looks at his little pet and admits he is actually feeling a bit jealous of how much attention it gets. He then calls out her name and hands the little creature over to Elmo, which catches her completely off guard. Elmo happily holds the little beast and asks if it wants to play with her too, and the creature lets out a happy cry in response. But as she looks closer at the creature, Elmo suddenly notices something very surprising. She stares into its face and realizes the little beast has the exact same sapphire color eyes as her own. Before she can process this, the little creature lets out a sweet whine and cuddles right up against her, leaving her totally stunned. Elmo squeezes the little tiger-striped beast tightly against her cheek, happily gushing about how fluffy and soft it is. But Guru just stands there completely silent, trembling so much that Elmo stops to tell him to wait a second. Instead of letting go, she just keeps rubbing her face against the beast's snuggly fur. This makes Guru completely lose his cool, blushing as he yells at her to stop doing things he hasn't even gotten to do yet when he's trying so hard to hold himself back over here. The little creature doesn't seem to mind the drama at all and lets out a happy, cute roar. Just as Elmo hears that his name is actually Gure, she lets out a surprised sound when the little beast suddenly jumps out of her hands. Gure opens his arms and calls out to Gure, telling him to come over and promising to play with him if he just leaves Elmo alone, while Gure lets out a cute little whimper. Watching this adorable moment makes Elmo smile warmly with a super happy look on her face. Soon, they head off together, but Elmo cannot resist cuddling the fluffy little beast one last time, which totally shocks Guru as Gure happily hops away. By the time they finish their walk, they arrive at a cozy wooden house tucked away in the forest. Guru waves and calls out that they are home, carrying a bucket with Gure resting happily on his head while Elmo follows him inside. Once they are inside, they start taking off their outer cloaks, and Guru calls out Elmo's name to get her attention. While the cute little beast Gure stretches comfortably on the table, the beast-eared woman warmly thanks Elmo for saving them today, which makes Elmo smile and say she's just glad she could help. The beast-eared woman also thanks Guru for letting Guri live with them, but just as he starts to say he should be the one thanking her, a sudden loud crash cuts him off and makes him yell out in surprise. Leaving a startled Elmo standing in the hallway, Guru quickly rushes off to tell Guri to stop thrashing around and wrecking the house. Watching them go, Elmo can't help but smile warmly as she hears Guru yelling in the background because the little beast scratched a towel and made things even worse. Since the house is so busy and loud now, Elmo decides to quietly step outside and gently closes the door behind her. Walking outside in the cool night air, she tells herself that she slipped out because they haven't seen each other in forever, so they probably have a lot of catching up to do. Standing outside in the dark, Elmo feels super embarrassed and starts worrying that she might be getting in the way, when Guru suddenly calls out her name. Guru peeks his head out of the door to ask what she is doing out here all alone, totally scaring her and making her jump. Super flustered, Elmo stammers that she just needed some fresh air, which makes Guru chuckle softly. He kindly tells her it is cold out and hands her a cozy plaid blanket to wrap around herself. Up above, the beautiful full moon shines brightly over the quiet forest night. As she wraps it around her shoulders, Elmo smiles happily, thinking about how incredibly warm it is. Guru directly asks Elmo if she finds things a little awkward, catching her completely off guard. Elmo gets super flustered and quickly explains she was just worried about getting in the way and ruining his reunion, admitting she started overthinking it. Hearing her worries, Guru just smiles softly at her. He gently explains that ever since he suddenly disappeared, he had been looking for him completely on his own. But since Elmo arrived, he hasn't been alone, and it's been super fun. With a warm blush, Guru looks at her and admits that now, a life without Elmo would feel really lonely. Guru smiles warmly and tells Elmo that he would never think she is in the way, which instantly gets her blushing in the background. He adds that having her around actually helps him out because of how wild his companion gets, leaving Elmo totally flustered since she is not used to such straightforward, kind words. When Guru calls out her name to check on her, she snaps out of her thoughts with a start and quickly tries to brush it off. Huddling deep into her plaid blanket, she shyly admits that she is just really glad she is not in the way after all. Guru then asks if they should head back inside soon, and she quietly agrees to go. But just as they start to move, someone loses their footing and trips on the ground with a sudden cry. As she trips and falls with a loud thud, Elmo immediately asks Guru if he is okay. She ends up landing right on top of him, and as she starts to ask him again, Guru is completely stunned and can barely squeeze out a word. Realizing how close they are, a blushing Elmo screams in embarrassment and quickly apologizes. Guru quickly asks if she is hurt, and she quietly assures him that she is totally fine. Flustered, she tells him she will get off him right away. But before she can move, her stomach lets out a super loud growl, and Guru can only stare at her in shock. Elmo is completely frozen in shock, while Guru just stares up at her, utterly surprised by the sudden, awkward position they have ended up in. Elmo frantically asks what kind of terrible timing that stomach growl was, and yells at him not to laugh, but Guru can't help but chuckle as he tries to apologize, making her snap and call him an idiot. Meanwhile, their little tiger companion Gure silently watches them walk back together from inside the building. Guru mentions that Gure is waiting for them, so they should head back inside, and Elmo happily agrees as they walk past the little tiger. After drying off, Elmo steps out and thanks Guru for letting her use the bath, which catches him by surprise as he sits on the bed with Gure. But as he looks at her, Guru notices her hair is still completely wet and points it out. Guru snaps his fingers with an idea, which only leaves Elmo feeling completely confused. He commands the magic to help dry her hair, sending little floating flames around her and making her squeal in surprise. Elmo carefully looks at one of the floating sparks, wondering if this is magic too, and if it is safe to touch, since it feels so warm. Guru smiles and reassures her from the bed, explaining that these are just little fire spirits he let out, so they will not spread. Elmo points at them in wonder, repeating the words, "little spirits," as she tries to understand. But out of nowhere, one of the flames flares up right next to her head, making her scream in shock all over again. Elmo points at the floating flames and panics, saying that these little guys are telling her they are going to burn her, which leaves Guru totally confused. Guru is completely shocked and asks Elmo if she can actually hear the little spirits' voices, eagerly wanting to know what they look like to her. Elmo is confused by his sudden excitement and wonders what he means by their appearance. She explains that while she can hear their voices clearly, to her, they just look like normal fireballs. Guru is amazed that she can hear their voices, even though she cannot see their true forms, and Elmo happily confirms that she can. Guru suggests that she might even be able to see them if she trains a bit, which gets Elmo super excited. Guru happily tells Elmo that they are heading off to take a bath next. He suggests she talk to the spirits as part of her training, and Elmo cheers in excitement, totally down to try it. Elmo eagerly suggests they have a little chat, but the fire spirits immediately ask her to skip the training and tell them how she and Guru first met. The spirits think about it and point out how strange it is that the two of them are living together, but are not actually dating. Hearing the word dating completely catches Elmo off guard and leaves her totally speechless. She panics and loudly insists it is nothing like that, but the fire spirits just giggle and tease her for getting so flustered. Elmo sits on the edge of the bed and explains that she is just a freeloader for now, but she fully plans on becoming independent eventually. This completely shocks the little fire spirits, who yell out in total surprise. The spirits ask if he doesn't like Elmo, before turning to her and excitedly asking if she actually likes him. Elmo blushes deeply and stammers that it is not like she dislikes him, but she is too embarrassed to finish her sentence. She sits there in awkward silence, completely flustered with the warm spirits floating right beside her. The spirits keep buzzing around her head, asking if something is wrong, if she is getting used to them, and if she can finally see them, but a tired Elmo just yawns and says she is ready for sleep. Elmo admits that even though it is a bit embarrassing to be asked so many questions, she actually finds the spirits' constant chatter kind of cute. But out of nowhere, a loud voice shouts from the other room, calling out her name and demanding a towel. The little fire spirits instantly realize Kuro is the one calling and cheer his name, which leaves Elmo feeling a bit confused. Hearing the voice call out for her once more, she quickly calls back to say she is on her way. She grabs a fresh bath towel and walks over, announcing that she has brought it. But the moment she opens the door, she completely freezes in shock, finding herself looking right at Guru, standing there in just his shorts, with the little tiger cub Kuro sitting at his feet. Guru asks Elmo if she can help dry Gure off, but he immediately stops and asks what is wrong when he sees her shocked face. Super flustered, Elmo blushes bright red and quickly stammers that everything is fine, as she agrees to take care of it. She tries to get the little tiger cub to wait, but the energetic animal runs right past her. The wet cub suddenly shakes himself off, splashing water everywhere and making her scream in surprise. Shivering from the freezing splash, Elmo sits on the floor, while a worried Guru rushes over to check if she is okay. But as Guru looks at her, he suddenly stops and blushes red, quickly apologizing as he realizes her wet nightgown is see-through. Elmo is completely confused at first by Guru's sudden, flustered reaction, but the moment she looks down at her wet nightgown, she freezes in absolute shock. She instantly lets out a loud scream, telling him to look away from her. Afterward, she covers her burning red cheeks, totally embarrassed that he saw her underwear. To make things even worse, she didn't have any dry clothes of her own, so she had to borrow his oversized shirt. She shivers from embarrassment, thinking about how much she has let her guard down ever since she started living with Guru. Suddenly, Guru tells his pet tiger cub Gure to stay still, while Elmo watches from the doorway looking a bit surprised. Elmo approaches to ask if something is wrong, and Guru explains he just wanted to check if the little cub has any other injuries besides his arm. Guru mentions that the cub really hates being checked over, leaving Elmo a bit surprised as she looks at the grumpy animal. She leans in close and gently tells Gure that he just has to put up with it for his own good. The little tiger cub just turns his head away with a proud and stubborn expression. But out of nowhere, the cub leaps up and smacks his paw right onto her nose, leaving Elmo completely confused. Right after the slap, Elmo blinks in confusion as she suddenly starts to feel really strange. She can barely keep her eyes open as a heavy wave of sleepiness washes over her. Before she knows it, her body goes totally limp and she starts to fall, prompting Guru to quickly catch her while shouting her name. Guru grunts in surprise as he supports her weight, completely shocked by what just happened. He asks the little cub what on earth he is trying to do, but the cheeky Guru just gives a proud huff, calling him Big Brother. Guru angrily points out that Guru was completely quiet until now and suddenly decided to use sleep magic, but the cub snaps back, telling him to shut up because he hates being treated like a pet. Guru snaps at Guru, pointing out that Guru is the one who would be in deep trouble if the little cub didn't keep quiet. He goes on to remind him that they are even keeping the fact that they are real brothers a complete secret. Guru then asks a flustered Guru if he was never afraid of his real identity being found out. Looking closely at Elmo while she sleeps, the cub asks his brother if he actually likes this human. Guru says absolutely nothing as he carries Elmo away, while Guru warns him to stop before they both end up hated by humans. Walking slowly behind them, the little cub admits he just does not want his brother to go through the same bad experiences he did, but Guru's sweat drops and determinedly says, they don't know that for sure yet. As Elmo lets out a heavy breath in her sleep, Guru insists from off-screen that getting hurt is absolutely bound to happen. He looks down at Elmo and yells at his brother, telling him that he just doesn't understand. Guru remembers his own past, asking if Guru knows how much he suffered back then, when a human first reached out to him in the woods. He asks if Guru has ever felt the kind of painful heartbreak that completely tears your chest apart. Looking up with sad eyes, Guru quietly calls out to his brother, leaving Guru standing there in silent conflict. But Guru insists that by living together, he really believes Elmo is going to be just fine. He even brings up that their grandmother used to say the exact same thing. Guru remains quiet for a moment, but then reminds him that humans are the actual reason the green fairies hate them so much. Guru is completely cornered by this fact and can only groan in defeat. Guru agrees at first, but then he suddenly realizes something and gasps in confusion. He remembers that tomorrow is the full moon, which is the only day of the month they can actually return to their original forms. Even though Elmo looks harmless, the tiger cat Guru decides he needs to test her himself to see if she is truly trustworthy. His brother Guru looks quite worried, wondering what will happen if she doesn't pass. Guru is completely shocked when Guru calmly declares that if she fails, he will kick her out of both the house and the village. Guru yells that his brother is going way too far with this, but Guru just responds with a low, stubborn growl. The little tiger cat turns and walks away, making it absolutely clear that he is serious about his plan. Guru coldly wishes him a good night and leaves, leaving Guru to clench his fist in frustration over his brother's harsh attitude. Guru sits on the edge of the bed, looking down at Elmo as she sleeps peacefully, and softly calls her name. Looking at her hand, Guru anxiously wonders if everything is really going to be okay. The next morning, Guru yawns sleepily as he opens the door to start his day. To his surprise, Elmo is already awake and cheerfully greets him with a bright good morning. Guru is shocked to see her up so early and asks if she has work, to which she happily replies that she is heading out right now. She apologizes for falling asleep so suddenly the night before, without telling him first, which catches Guru completely off guard. Guru quickly brushes off his thoughts, telling Elmo it is nothing and she should not worry about it, which leaves her looking a bit confused. Elmo cheerfully lets Guru know she made breakfast and hopes he eats it before it gets cold, which makes him super happy as he thanks her for the help. Elmo mentions she might be late coming home today, so Guru replies that he will be late doing chores too, and warns her to be careful on her walk home since he cannot pick her up. Elmo happily agrees to be careful and bids him goodbye as she heads off to start her day. Guru watches her leave and promises himself that he will find out what kind of person she truly is. But his thoughts are interrupted when someone calls out Elmo's name from afar. Elmo stops and turns around with a surprised look, wondering who could be calling her. Guru looks determined and says that no matter what happens, he is always going to be himself. He knows it sounds confusing, but he begs Elmo never to leave him and to keep believing in him. Elmo smiles warmly and asks what is wrong since this is so sudden, but she promises that she definitely believes in him. Guru is left speechless, as she adds that she wants to support him, just like he has always been so kind and supportive of her. Hearing this, Guru lets out a happy smile and thanks her. He then apologizes for saying something so strange out of nowhere. Guru apologizes for holding her up when she is already busy and wishes her a good day, while Elmo happily waves goodbye as she heads off. Once she is gone, Guru walks back inside to tell Guru that Elmo has officially left. But Guru suddenly stops in his tracks as something catches his eye. He looks over to see Guru stuffing his face with breakfast, happily talking about how fluffy and buttery the delicious bread is. This makes Guru super annoyed, and he yells at Guru, asking how he can just eat like that after everything he said yesterday. Guru just snorts and snaps back that food is totally different, telling Guru to stop complaining and just hurry up and try it. Guru can only sigh in exasperation as he looks down at the table. He realizes she prepared a whole spread for him, complete with French toast, tomato soup, and a fresh salad. Deciding to try a bite, He tells himself to check it out, but his eyes instantly go wide in complete shock at just how good it is. He happily admits that Elmo's cooking is absolutely delicious, and Gure proudly agrees with him. Seeing how smug his partner looks, Guru has to ask why he is acting so high and mighty about it. When the little cub just acts confused, Guru points out that he still has food messy all over his face. Guru bursts out laughing as the little tiger frantically asks where the crumbs on his face are. Smiling softly, Guru thinks about how grateful he is to Elmo for making enough food for Gretch too. He wonders if that kind girl will still be smiling tonight under the full moon. He knows she is bound to be shocked when she sees what he and the other villagers really look like. Remembering what she said earlier, Guru looks down as Gray happily rubs against his side. The little tiger looks up eagerly, asking Guru if he finally got all the crumbs off. Or maybe things will go completely wrong. Guru tries to shake it off, but he realizes it's just no good. Even if he tries to stay positive and tells himself everything will be fine, he just can't stop imagining the absolute worst. Seeing his worry, Bree calls out to him, and Guru turns to ask what is on his little friend's mind. Guru looks away, quietly admitting he just really hopes Elmo won't react terribly like that other girl from their past. This completely shocks Gray, who snaps and tells Guru that is definitely not what he was saying yesterday after he spent all that time worrying about him. Bree decides to brush the heavy topic aside, saying they have things to do anyway. Guru then brings up the idea that they probably should tell the rest of the village about their plans beforehand. As they head out into the square, the local villagers start pointing at them and wondering what is going on. Guru casually waves and says, "It has been a while," making the villagers super excited to see Gray and immediately ask where they have been. However, a grumpy elderly village woman is not happy with his casual attitude at all, shouting that a simple greeting is totally ridiculous. She angrily points her cane at them, scolding them for disappearing for months and acting like it is no big deal. Gray tries to explain that there is actually a bit of a situation behind their sudden disappearance, but the village woman snaps back that his excuses do not matter because they still just up and left without saying a single word. Bree sweat drops and promises he will explain everything later, but she accuses him of trying to change the subject, forcing him to quickly deny it. Bree tries to shift the focus, telling her they actually came to discuss something else today, and turns to Guru for backup. Standing tall, Guru gathers his courage and announces to the crowd that he has something very important he wants to tell everyone. He looks serious and explains that tonight he is finally planning to reveal his true form to a certain girl. The village woman gasps, asking Guru if he really means it, and he calmly confirms that he does. He begins to explain to the crowd about the human girl he has been staying with, reminding everyone in the village that he has been living with Elmo. Hearing this, the villagers immediately start teasing him, calling her the girl he is crazy about, praising her as a good kid, and joking about how fast he moves by living together before they are even dating, which just makes Guru groan. Guru blushes bright red, covering his face with his arm as he begs them to stop teasing him. But with a full moon out tonight, he worries that if Elmo sees their true monster forms, she might get scared and leave them forever. Even with all his worries, the village woman looks on with concern as Guru clenches his fist tightly. He speaks from the heart, saying that if Elmo doesn't push him away, he wants everyone in the village to accept his feelings for her. The village woman softly calls out Guru's name, while the other villagers stand around in silence, taking in his words. Out of nowhere, Gree also steps up to ask them for a favor, admitting he caused a lot of trouble before when he got tricked by that other girl. He begs them to please accept Guru's feelings, promising that he will take full responsibility for her too. But the villagers just smile warmly at them, happily saying that of course they will welcome her with open arms. Guru is caught completely off guard when a kind old woman warmly tells him that they have actually been rooting for him since the very beginning. Another friendly villager quickly chimes in with a big thumbs up to show his total agreement. This completely melts Guru's heart, and with tears of joy in his eyes, he softly thanks everyone for their amazing support. But out of nowhere, he turns around in surprise and calls out to his buddy. It turns out Gray is standing nearby, and the little tiger companion smiles and says he is happy for him. However, Gray also reminds him of their conversation from yesterday, saying he still plans to test her first. Before they get started, Gray asks Guru if he is really okay with their plan, and Guru says he is totally ready. They head over to a quiet wooden house surrounded by trees deep in the forest. A little later, Elmo opens the door and cheerfully calls out to let everyone know she is back home. But as she steps inside, she notices how quiet the room is and wonders what is going on. Suddenly, she gasps as she spots a very familiar little guest waiting for her. She happily calls out Gray's name, but the little tiger cub just stares back at her in complete silence. Elmo is super relieved when she notices someone is there, happily saying she thought she was all alone. Just as she admits she was getting pretty worried, a finger gently taps the back of her head. Suddenly, her eyes close and she completely passes out, falling backward into a waiting pair of arms. Guru catches her easily and mutters a quick whoops as she sleeps peacefully in his arms. Bree looks at how Guru is holding her and asks his buddy if doing this is really okay. Guru sighs because he hates having to use sleep magic on her 2 days in a row, but Gray reassures him that this time the spell is super weak, so she will be totally fine. As Elmo peacefully sleeps, she softly mutters an apology in her dreams. Meanwhile, the little tiger Gray alerts Guru that it is time to head out. Guru looks down at her with a worried expression, softly whispering Elmo's name as she remains fast asleep. With a quiet smile, Guru bids her a silent goodbye and walks out into the night, with Gray trailing behind him. Just a moment later, Elmo's eyes slowly flutter open as she starts to wake up. Staring up at the wooden ceiling, she mutters in total confusion. Elmo sits up in bed, completely confused, and wondering if she somehow fell asleep without even realizing it. She tries to think back, remembering only the moment she called out to Gray, but everything after that is a complete blur. Even so, she has a strange feeling that she heard Guru's voice right after she drifted off. She looks around the quiet room and notices Gray is gone, making her wonder if she is completely on her own. But then, she suddenly remembers something important. She recalls Guru telling her that he had to run some errands and would be late, warning her to be careful since he wouldn't be able to pick her up. Elmo steps outside into the night and decides she should head straight toward the village. Looking up at the night sky, she notices how pretty the full moon is tonight, but when she gets closer to the town, the streets are completely empty and dark. She gets a bit confused, realizing that the area seems way quieter than usual. Just then, she catches the faint sound of music, chatter, and happy laughter nearby. Hearing what sounds like singing and clapping, she wonders if all the noise is coming from the town plaza. Elmo suddenly stops dead in her tracks, completely caught off guard by what she sees. She stares in total shock, unable to believe her eyes, and wondering why this is happening. Looking out over the busy town plaza under the bright moon, she spots a crowd of beastmen celebrating near the fountain, with a mysterious dark beast standing right there. Staring at the creature as it breathes softly, she realizes she knows exactly what it is. She clutches her cloak in fear, as she recognizes it as a rare black spirit beast. She remembers that this is actually a secret path branching off from Eldrad's story, where the main character is supposed to fight against the villainous Elmo using a white spirit beast they saved as a kid. This story has been on Elmo's mind for a really long time, especially since it involves Lilia, the game's heroine, who eventually awakens as a holy saint. In that bad route, Elmo gets her own black spirit beast, and they try to fight together, only to get totally beaten by Lilia and her white beast. The tragic scene shows Lilia standing victorious over her defeated rival, who is left lying helpless on the cold, cracked ground. This is the sad ending for Elmo and the Black Spirit Beast, which only happens if they fail to beat the White Beast, ending with the poor creature desperately begging Elmo to stay with them. Elmo remembers how her game self ends up sitting on the floor in pain, clutching a super deep, bloody cut on her side. Looking at her in panic, the Black Spirit Beast insists that they have to find a way to heal her injuries as fast as possible. Injured and bleeding, Elmo tries to stay strong and tells him it is all right, urging him to escape and save himself. The Black Spirit Beast is completely shocked by her words and refuses to leave, yelling that if she is staying, he is going with her. But Elmo just begs him to listen, pleading with him to survive even if it has to be alone. He gets really emotional and shouts that there is no way he could ever abandon the woman he loves, which brings tears to Elmo's eyes. Reaching her hands out to him, she softly asks if he is really sure about this, calling him her beloved spirit beast. With their hearts completely in sync, Elmo holds his face and gives him a gentle kiss as magical stars sparkle all around them. As they share a deep, final kiss, she realizes without a doubt that their bond is completely real. In the game, Elmo says thank you and tells him she loves him before they pass away together, which always made her cry. Even though Elmo was supposed to be the villain, she admits to herself that she didn't expect the Black Spirit Beast to appear at all, since she didn't follow the game's actual route. She actually worried that her own selfish choices might have made him disappear for good. But as she watches him now, he looks so incredibly happy playing with all of his friends. With tears in her eyes, she smiles and says she is just so glad he hasn't vanished from her life. Out of nowhere, a mysterious voice demands to know how Elmo could possibly know that name, catching her completely off guard. Startled by the sudden sound, she quickly spins around and demands to know who is hiding out there in the dark. Looking around the quiet streets under the bright moon, she cautiously calls out, wondering if someone is actually there. The voice explains that a true name is a sacred secret, only ever revealed to someone who has earned their deepest trust. Elmo is left totally confused, repeating the words, "a true name," and "earned trust" in her head as she tries to make sense of it. She panics internally because she got so emotional that she accidentally blurted the name out and since she cannot confess she knows it from an otome game, she quickly lies and says she just read about beastmen and spirit beasts in a book. The black spirit beast repeats her excuse about reading it in a book, but decides to let it slide for now. He then asks Elmo if she is ever afraid when she looks at them. He gestures toward the happy beastmen in the plaza to clarify if she means them. Holding up a wooden mug, he points out that they are completely different species. Elmo hesitates for a brief second before firmly declaring that she is definitely not scared. The black spirit beast is surprised she has no fear, pointing out that unlike humans, he has a monstrous form. Elmo clenches her fist tightly, shouting out a passionate "so what" to defend her stance. She stands her ground, explaining that the beastmen haven't done anything to her, so she isn't about to be scared of them just because they look different. This brings back painful memories of her own relatives, who once looked at her with absolute disgust and ordered her to get out of their sight. Even the bearded clan leader had yelled at her, calling her a disgrace to their clan and telling her to just go wherever she wanted. Remembering how mean people can be, Elmo smiles softly under her hood and says there are other things in life to be afraid of, but right after saying that, she suddenly gets super embarrassed by how dramatic she just sounded and hides her blushing face in her hands with a groan. Seeing her tears, the tiger beastman gets worried and tells Elmo not to cry, gently asking her if she is doing okay. Elmo reassures him that she is fine and just remembered something from a long time ago, adding that she is actually happy now. The tiger beastman seems surprised by her response and asks her if she is truly happy right now. A dark-haired youth cheerfully points out that although he hasn't been in this country for very long, he has already met so many kind people, like a sweet elderly woman who welcomed him with a warm smile. Elmo smiles brightly and says that is why she is super happy, admitting she never even knew a place this warm existed. As Elmo walks away, the kind elderly woman smiles and whispers that if she had met someone like Elmo sooner, maybe she would not have been betrayed. Hearing that word catches Elmo completely off guard, and she stops in her tracks to ask what she means by being betrayed. The kind elderly woman explains that it is an old story about a girl who suddenly vanished, declaring she did not need a white tiger anymore now that her flag was set, which leaves Elmo totally stunned. As Elmo pictures the sad scene of a tiger left behind, she realizes there is something incredibly familiar about this story. Unable to contain her shock, Elmo spins around and rushes right back, shouting for the woman to please tell her more. Holding her hand tightly to her chest, she desperately begs her to share every single detail she knows about that story. The small tiger spirit looks back, surprised by her reaction, and asks Elmo if she really wants to hear it that badly, since it is not a happy story at all. Elmo apologizes for being so intense, but explains she might actually know something about this, and begs him to tell her, even though she knows it is a big favor. There is a brief, quiet silence between them as they stand together outside under the tree. Finally, the small tiger spirit says he understands and warns her that it is going to be a pretty long story. He begins by explaining that the girl they are talking about is actually the person who saved him a very long time ago. He explains that back then, he was badly hurt in the forest and had completely given up, preparing for the end, until she suddenly healed him using a mysterious power. Elmo realizes with absolute certainty that this is the exact same scene she saw in her game. The girl from the story was none other than Lilia, the game's actual heroine. If that is really the case, Elmo starts putting the pieces together. She wonders if the voice speaking to her right now actually belongs to the legendary white spirit beast. The tiger spirit continues his story, explaining that the girl kept coming back to the forest to see him, even after his wounds healed. She was never afraid of him at all, and always treated him with pure kindness. The tiger spirit explains that with every single moment they spent together, they found themselves completely drawn to Lilia. That is why the tiger spirit decided to take on a human form just like hers, to finally confess their feelings. Lilia happily accepted them back then, allowing them to finally become mates. The tiger spirit truly believed they would live happily together in the forest forever, but that beautiful dream got shattered. Hearing this, Elmo asks why they only thought that, wondering if the two of them didn't share the exact same feelings. The tiger spirit sadly admits that at first, Lilia really did seem to accept them. The tiger spirit explains that the exact moment they made their vows, Lilia suddenly became a completely different person. In a flashback, just as the tiger happily celebrated that they were finally together, Lilia suddenly shouted about an event flag being triggered, leaving him totally confused. She happily told him she was adopted to become a count's daughter, saying that since her hidden route was safely set, she had no reason to stay with a savage tiger like him. He remembers walking away while she just kept going on and on with her hurtful words. Hearing this sad tale, Elmo gets teary-eyed and whispers that treating someone like that is just way too cruel. But then Elmo realizes those strange phrases are not things a normal person in this world would ever say, making her wonder if something else is going on. Elmo is suddenly hit with a wild realization, wondering if Lilia is actually a reincarnated person just like she is. But if that is the the case, then everything about Lilia's weird behavior suddenly makes perfect sense to her. To figure it out, she clenches her fist and thinks back to her time in the royal capital. She remembers a moment when Lilia suddenly called her out, casually asking what happened to Prince Eldrad. Hearing that name, Elmo could only stand there in total confusion, wondering why she was asking about the prince. Lilia then looked back at her with a smug smile, teasing her for actually showing up all by herself. Elmo is completely shocked to see Lilia standing right in front of her. She demands to know why Lilia is here and where Prince Eldrad is, but Lilia just tells her that the prince is not coming. In fact, Lilia admits that she was the one who asked the prince to call for Elmo in the first place. With a smug look on her face, Lilia addresses Elmo directly, calling her a total fool. She leans in whisper close and asks Elmo how long she plans on being in love with him. Leaving Elmo frozen in complete shock, Lilia meanly tells her that it is absolutely impossible for someone like her. Lilia looks back with a mean smile and tells Elmo that no matter how hard she tries, a villainess and a prince can never end up together, so she should just give up. She tells Elmo to consider herself warned and snaps that nuisances like her should just hurry up and back off. Elmo stands frozen, realizing Lilia is also a reincarnated person who knew about the game, but she feels the way Lilia is going about this is just too much. Elmo looks down in deep sadness, thinking that while this might just feel like a game to Lilia, the people living in this world actually have real hearts. Tears begin to fill Elmo's eyes as she clutches her chest, asking Lilia if she honestly feels absolutely nothing for the people who are hurting and suffering. Seeing Elmo break down, Lilia stops in her tracks and demands to know what is wrong and why she is the one crying. Still crying over her confrontation with Lilia, Elmo tearfully says that the other girl is just too horrible. She continues, saying that Lilia hurts people without a second thought because she has never known the pain of being betrayed. As Elmo lets out her sadness, her striped, tiger-like companion listens silently with a look of worry. The little creature steps forward on the stone path and softly calls out her name. Under the night sky, Elmo is completely shocked to see her little friend and gasps in surprise. Her companion nods in agreement and apologizes for hiding from her this entire time. Elmo is completely shocked to realize she has actually been talking to Graychan this entire time. She asks if he is actually the legendary white spirit beast, but suddenly someone calls out for his big brother. Elmo is caught off guard and wonders what is going on now as a massive shadow suddenly rushes past. It is the legendary black spirit beast, who leaps in and angrily demands to know what was done to Elmo. He yells at his big brother for trying to test her after asking him for help, while Graychan sweatily begs him to wait because it is just a misunderstanding. The black beast refuses to listen, pointing a massive paw at Elmo and yelling about how her eyes are completely swollen from crying so hard. Graychan quickly apologizes for making Elmo cry, insisting he did nothing mean, but his big brother just responds with an angry grunt. Elmo thinks back to a black-haired young man, happily holding the little white tiger and calling him his big brother. She mentions out loud that she knows someone who calls Graychan his big brother, while the poor white tiger helplessly wiggles around as he is held by the scruff. As she says those words, the dots suddenly start connecting in her mind. With tears filling her eyes, Elmo finally puts it all together and realizes that her friend Grusan is actually the legendary black spirit beast. Still completely stunned by this massive secret, she can only squeak out a quiet word as she stares at the two spirit beasts. Elmo looks over, completely surprised, and asks if he is really her friend Grusan. Grusan admits it is him and apologizes for keeping his real, giant beast form a secret, asking if she would ever want to stay with someone like him. Elmo smiles softly as she wipes away her tears, quickly giving him a comforting no. She promises that even if his appearance changes, nothing changes for her and she won't leave him, which leaves both brothers feeling super touched. Suddenly, something clicks in Elmo's mind, and she asks him why he usually spends his time in his human form anyway. As Elmo looks at him curiously, Grusan gets super nervous and sweats, muttering that there are some really complicated reasons for it. But out of nowhere, Graychan steps in and says he will be the one to explain everything. Walking up to Elmo, he insists that he should be the one to tell her. He starts explaining that the reason all the beast folk usually look human is actually connected to the girl he talked about earlier, which leaves Elmo completely speechless. According to him, the beast folk originally made their home deep in the spirit forest, and in that place, they had a custom where couples who fell in love or got married had to make a promise under the tree of the green spirit. As soon as the sacred protection ritual is finished with the girl's full consent, everything changes. The spirit suddenly leaves for who knows where, babbling some weird stuff about flags. This makes the green spirit, who gave them that protection, really angry, so she turns everyone in the village into humans and completely vanishes. With the spirit gone, plants stop growing in the village altogether. Since the villagers can only change back to their original beast forms during a full moon, they can no longer live there and have to leave. Gray-chan looks down sadly and admits that all of this is actually his fault. Gray-chan sadly explains that because he was tricked by that awful woman, everyone else was chased out of the village and turned into humans, while he is the only one left stuck in his beast form. Hearing his painful confession, Elmo can only look down at him with worry and softly call out his name. Meanwhile, a large tiger spirit watches them from nearby, thinking quietly about his big brother's heavy heart. Suddenly, a loud voice cuts through the quiet night, telling them to listen up. The large tiger spirit steps forward and boldly says that being sad on a day like today is strictly forbidden. He gently reminds Gray-chan that he has told him many times before that nobody holds a grudge against him, and starts to say something else. Out of nowhere, the large tiger spirit declares that because he became human, he is lucky enough to live with such a kind and cute girl, leaving Elmo completely shocked. He proudly adds that she is almost too good for him, while a super flustered Elmo desperately yells out his name, Grusan, trying to get him to stop. Grusan teasingly says it is cute how embarrassed she gets, making Elmo fume even more as she begs him to please stop talking. As the two go back and forth, Gray-chan just sits there quietly watching them, letting out a soft grunt. With her face completely red, Elmo can only stand there shaking in embarrassment, letting out a cute little pout. Trying to shake off her blushing face and get her feelings under control, she softly clears her throat. Elmo blushes, but decides that if they are going to tease her, she might as well speak her mind too. She honestly tells him that she wants to squeeze, fluff, and rub him with all her strength, leaving the giant tiger completely shocked by her sudden confession. Seeing this, the little white tiger can't help but smile at how bold Elmo can really be. The giant tiger is totally stunned as he repeats her words about hugging and fluffing, while Elmo gets super embarrassed and tries to laugh it off. She explains that she has felt this way ever since playing the game, but quickly adds that it is perfectly fine if he doesn't want to. This catches the giant tiger off guard, and he quickly stammers that it isn't that he dislikes the idea at all, leaving his little brother quite surprised. Out of nowhere, the mischievous little Grusan teasingly asks his brother if he already told Elmo his real name and let her hug him, which leaves Gray-chan completely shocked. Meanwhile, Elmo looks incredibly nervous and secretly worries, sweating as she wonders how to handle this situation, since she hasn't told anyone the truth yet. Grusan smugly points to Elmo to prove his point, while Elmo panics in the background, and a clueless Gretchen just stands there looking totally confused. Elmo is in a total panic inside her head, wondering what she should do, since she definitely cannot just say she knows his name from her past life's memories of an otome game. But then, Gray-chan smiles gently and admits that if it is Elmo, he really does not mind, and since she was not scared of his giant beast form, he always planned on telling her. As he looks at her, his thoughts race with how much he wants to tell her his real name so he can keep her by his side and make her his alone. Elmo is left totally blushing, wondering what he meant by never letting her go and if he really wants to be hers. Gray-chan looks right at her and tells her that if she already knows his real name, he should go ahead and call him by it. He gently calls out her name, Elmo, to encourage her to speak. She stares at him and feels like it is no use trying to resist because she is getting totally drawn into his beautiful eyes. Feeling completely drawn in, she slowly starts to say the first part of his name. Finally, she looks him in the eyes and says the name Tigre, which makes him look super happy as sparkles float around them. Elmo is totally shocked when she looks over and sees that he is suddenly puffed up all at once. The tiger beast is absolutely thrilled by this, and begs her to call him by his name just one more time. Feeling a bit flustered, Elmo happily calls out his name, Tigre, once again. Hearing his name makes him shake with emotion as he lets out a quiet groan, barely able to handle how happy he is. Suddenly, he calls out Elmo's name and leaps right toward her, saying he just can't hold back his excitement anymore. Although she loves how soft and fluffy he is, Elmo tries to hold him back because his aggressive cuddling is getting way too intense. Tigre says goodbye with a grin, admitting he really cannot control himself right now. Just then, Elmo sniffs the air in confusion as a strange scent suddenly catches her attention. Her eyes go wide as she realizes it is the strong smell of alcohol, and she calls him out for drinking way too much. Tigre loudly insists he is not drunk, but a flustered Elmo begs him to stop his aggressive behavior. Seeing this play out, an old beast woman happily calls for a toast to the young couple, prompting the other villagers to loudly cheer them on. Elmo is left completely shocked and blushing bright red by everyone's sudden teasing. Elmo gets super flustered and begs Gru to stop, pointing out that absolutely everyone is watching them. But Tigray just apologizes to Elmo, admitting that he does not think he can control himself anymore. Meanwhile, Gray-chan and the other villagers happily cheer Gru on for being so intense, shouting at him to keep going. This makes Elmo panic even more, and she yells at Gray-chan to stop just watching and actually help her hold Gru back. But Gray-chan immediately refuses, saying that trying to stop him is completely impossible. With absolutely no help in sight, Elmo is left standing there completely drained and embarrassed by all the unwanted attention. Elmo takes a bite of the sweet, delicious fruit she got, really enjoying how good it tastes. By the time she realizes it, dawn has already arrived, and she sits by the fountain, noticing how energetic everyone in town is. As she smiles and thinks about how much fun everyone seems to be having, a cute little tiger cub suddenly peeks up next to her. She happily scoops him up, and they warmly greet each other as she realizes it is Gray-chan. When she asks the little guy what is wrong, Gray-chan explains that he came to ask her to please look after him and his brother. Elmo laughs happily and says she should be the one asking for that, while the big tiger brother stutters in surprise in the background. Tigray looks super disappointed and stutters that the spot on her lap is actually his. Gray-chan smugly tells him he is way too big to fit and that a little cub is the perfect size, which makes Tigray incredibly jealous. Elmo agrees with a sweet smile, which makes the little cub jump up with pure excitement. She gently holds the tiny tiger cub close to her chest with a warm smile. Then, Elmo pats the empty space next to her and tells Tigray there is still a spot left for him. She reaches out to pet his striped fur, softly calling him by his nickname to comfort him. Elmo smiles warmly and tells Grusan that she is really happy she got to meet him. Feeling a bit shy, Tigray admits he feels the same way and asks if it is really okay for him to rely on Elmo more from now on. Tigray happily promises to let her lean on him as much as she wants, and Elmo sweetly asks him to rely on her in return so they can support each other. Hearing this, little Gray-chan immediately chimes in that he wants to join too, making Elmo laugh while Tigray playfully complains about his little brother interrupting their moment. The scene then shifts to the outside of a quiet house, sitting peacefully under the bright sky. Suddenly, a girl's eyes flutter open as she slowly wakes up, the warm memory fading away. Elmo wakes up to find herself lying in bed, right next to a handsome, dark-haired young man sleeping peacefully. Staring closely at his calm, sleeping face, she slowly starts to realize who he is. She remembers a giant black spirit beast leaning over her, and she wonders if that moment wasn't actually a dream. She lies there completely silent, just quietly watching him sleep as her mind races. It suddenly clicks in her head that Gru and Gray are actually the legendary black and white spirit beasts. And on top of that, she realizes this guy sleeping right next to her is actually one of them in human form. Elmo remembers how the dark-haired man told her his real name so she couldn't run away, confessing that he wanted to make her his alone. She blushes deeply as she touches her cheek, realizing that his words were basically a direct confession, which is something she never really sat down and thought about until now. Suddenly, she sits right up in bed, shaking her head and trying to deny the crazy thoughts running through her mind. She has to admit that the mood between them was definitely amazing, but there is still a massive problem. When she looks over at him sleeping peacefully, she realizes that neither of them has actually said out loud how they truly feel about each other. Clutching her face in a total panic, she realizes with a bright blush that their current relationship is actually super confusing and completely up in the air. Elmo stares down in silence, blushing as she realizes she is surely falling deep. She thinks about how she first liked him because of his black spirit beast form in the game, but now she knows she truly loves the dark-haired man for who he is. Even without the game, she was completely drawn to the dark-haired man's genuine kindness as they spent time together. Just then, the dark-haired man opens his eyes and sleepily calls out Elmo's name. With a gentle smile, he tells her good morning since she is already awake. Elmo gasps in surprise, which immediately makes the dark-haired man ask if something is wrong. Elmo softly greets him with a good morning, blushing as she admits she was just lost in her thoughts. But out of nowhere, he suddenly grabs her wrist and says her name, making her let out a little gasp. He gently pulls her down onto the bed right next to him, looking at her with a sweet, warm smile. This completely catches her off guard, leaving her totally stunned as her heart starts to race. Her face turns super red as she starts to panic, frantically asking him what he is doing. He just looks at her with a gentle, teasing smile, telling her that she is not running away from him like she used to. Elmo panics internally, realizing she can't possibly admit her nervousness comes from completely falling for him, while he just stares back in confusion. Breaking the silence, he calls out her name softly. He looks right at her and asks if she will go with him to the spirit forest later that day. He gently squeezes her hand, adding that there is something special he wants to tell her once they get there. Her heart skips a beat as she gasps in pure surprise, completely flustered by his invitation. Seeing her completely frozen and speechless, he looks down with a slightly worried expression and asks if that means she does not want to go. Blushing red, Elmo quickly stammers out that she definitely wants to go with him. Hearing this, the dark-haired young man smiles softly and says he is glad to hear it. He decides to go get ready first, telling Elmo to let him know when she is ready to head out too. Elmo just stands there in silence, watching him walk out of the room. Left alone, she starts to worry, wondering what going to the spirit forest could actually mean for them. Meanwhile, the scene shifts far away to a massive castle in the kingdom of Fares. A fist slams hard on the table in pure frustration, with someone shouting in anger, wondering why things have to be this way. Prince L sits there completely stressed out, demanding to know why Lilia refuses to do her queen training when she is literally going to marry the crown prince. He reminds himself that the two of them are supposed to be the next king and queen of the land, but every time he brings it up and tells her it is finally time to start her queen training, Lilia just looks at him in complete shock. She tears up, clasping her hands together and asking if he is really going to force her to do something so awful, which completely catches him off guard. She calls him a mean jerk and runs off crying, leaving him desperately calling out her name in the hallway. The light-haired prince remembers choosing Lilia because she used to seem so innocent, sweet, and elegant. But ever since Elmo was kicked out of the kingdom, Lilia has done nothing but act super selfishly and demand whatever she wants. He knows deep down that the common people will never accept a future queen who wastes so much money on herself. Sitting alone at his desk, he finds himself seriously questioning if he should really marry Lilia. Feeling completely overwhelmed, he suddenly turns toward the door and calls out to see if anyone is there. He raises his voice and demands that someone come inside, instantly startling the two servants who are waiting out in the hallway. The mustached butler steps into the room and politely asks how he can help. The prince immediately asks for an update on the matter he requested, but the butler apologetically admits that she still hasn't been found. This makes the prince lose his temper, angrily demanding why they can't find her, and if they're even searching properly. The nervous butler explains that they haven't been able to find a single trace of her since she walked out of the duke's house. Gritting his teeth in frustration, the prince realizes with dread that she might have already left the country entirely. He yells at the butler to go search outside the country and not to stop until Elmo is finally found, leaving the frightened man to quickly say he understands. Out of nowhere, someone loudly bursts into the room, catching Prince L completely off guard while he is working at his desk. Still sadly whispering Elmo's name to himself, the prince is interrupted when a voice asks if something happened because of all the noise. He looks up with a sweat drop, immediately realizing that it is Lilia. Sure enough, Lilia stands there with a big, cheerful smile, saying she came to visit him, but Prince L coldly tells her he has absolutely no time for her right now, leaving her totally shocked. Instead of leaving, she gets a coy look and says there is actually something she wants from him. Prince L complains that she has been spending way too much money lately, but Lilia just acts surprised and asks if he is seriously bringing this up again. She completely brushes it off, loudly arguing that it shouldn't be a big deal since she is going to be the next queen anyway. But when she casually calls out his nickname, L, he stands there looking highly irritated. He immediately snaps at her, yelling at her to stop and demanding that she never call him by that name. He gets super frustrated and asks why she has to be so selfish, leaving Lilia shocked as she asks what on earth is wrong with him. She is left looking completely hurt and defensive, muttering to herself that she only asked for a little something. Lilia is left completely shocked when Prince L suddenly yells at her to shut up and just get out of his office. As she storms out into the hallway, she angrily wonders what on earth his problem is. She stomps down the corridor, fuming that he has been so annoying lately because he does nothing but complain every single time they see each other. A terrible thought suddenly hits her as she wonders if her charm magic is starting to wear off, since she fully expected to live an easy, comfortable life forever by staying with Prince L. All she really wants is to live in total luxury without having to do any hard work, planning to just fake her way through all the annoying duties of being queen anyway. But all of this frustration and trouble actually started because of one big reason. Lilia blames everything on that awful villainess, convinced she is the reason all her plans are falling apart. She complains that no matter how many times she warns her, the girl just refuses to act the way she is supposed to in the game. To make matters worse, she cannot believe that the biggest event in the story, the Great Fever Outbreak, isn't even happening at all. After all, she was supposed to be treated like a saint for saving everyone from both the fever and Elmo, getting all the glory. But then, she stops in her tracks as a dark, sneaky idea suddenly comes to mind. With a bright light bulb popping up over her head, she happily decides she will just start the fever outbreak herself. Lilia remembers exactly how to start the sickness because she saw it happen in her game. She figures if she spreads the disease herself and then saves everyone, she will easily become the beloved saint. She laughs to herself, thinking she is super smart for coming up with such a perfect plan. Around this time, a boy named Gulu tells her that he has something important to share with her. She follows him right into the spirit forest, where he uses a glowing magic shield to protect them as they walk. Looking around, she realizes that since they are in the spirit forest, the special spirit tree must be close by. As they walk, Lilia suddenly remembers something and stops to think. She looks down at the path and asks Gulu if this is his first time back in the area in a while. Gulu smiles and says he actually came near here once before when he was searching for his brother. This completely catches Lilia off guard, leaving her totally confused about some village. Gulu explains that this is the very village where they lived 6 years ago and that the spirit tree is close by, making Lilia nod in realization. Hearing that, Lilia instantly blushes as she remembers the spirit tree is the legendary spot where couples make their romantic promises to each other. Gulu suddenly remembers to warn them, saying that dangerous monsters are now appearing in the forest and telling them not to wander off alone. This warning completely startles both Lilia and the black-haired boy, who stammer out in shock at the mention of monsters. Gulu explains that these beasts started showing up right after the green spirit disappeared and its protective power faded away. He has been going around trying to fight them off, but there are just too many for him to get rid of on his own. The black-haired boy seems to understand something and mutters that it finally makes sense, which makes the others wonder what he means. Gulu adds that he actually learned all this from the forest spirits when he was busy looking for his lost brother. Gulu recalls how some people told him to thank his companions for protecting them, and though he did not understand what they meant at the time, it all makes perfect sense to him now. But then Gulu gets all flustered and shakes his head, insisting that since he was the one who caused all this trouble in the first place, helping out is only natural. The black-haired boy gets totally fed up and yells at him to stop because being gloomy is strictly forbidden, but Gulu still cannot help feeling bad about everything. Looking at the sad little cub, Lilia silently realizes that Gulu, whom she calls Gretchen, has been carrying the heavy burden of protecting the forest all on his own. She suddenly remembers their very first meeting, finally understanding that fighting so hard to guard the woods is the real reason he was so badly hurt back then. Gulu looks up in surprise, calling out to Lilia as she gently crouches down next to him to offer some comfort. The black-haired boy gently pats Gulu on the head, making the little cub freeze in shock as Lilia points out how kind Gretchen really is. Lilia watches with a warm smile as Gulu gets completely flustered and can barely even find the words to speak. To hide his embarrassment, Gulu suddenly bolts ahead and tells them to hurry up, while Lilia calls out that they should make their way to the village. The black-haired boy just laughs, wondering what the sudden rush is all about. Lilia then teases him by calling him her kind big brother, which instantly makes him blush and stammer in surprise. The flustered boy desperately yells out, begging Gulu not to start teasing him as well. Lilia points out that they have finally reached Sylph Village, the place where she used to live, which makes the black-haired boy stop in surprise. The black-haired boy tells her that the spirit tree is just ahead of them, but Lilia suddenly spots something worrying. She notices that even though the forest entrance looked completely fine, the plants closer to the village are starting to dry up and die. Sensing her delay, the black-haired boy tells her to hurry up, so she quickly promises to catch up. They finally arrive at the massive trunk, and the black-haired boy happily points out that they have reached their destination. Looking up at the giant, bare branches of the spirit tree, the black-haired boy calls out to see if Tita is around. The two of them stand before the massive spirit tree, calling out into the quiet branches to see if anyone is around. Looking around the giant trunk, the black-haired boy wonders out loud if she might not even be here. But when they call out again, a tiny spirit girl wakes up on her branch and floats down, grumbling about who is disturbing her nap. The little spirit, who is actually Tita, the spirit of the tree, suddenly recognizes them as Shiro and Kuro, and the black-haired boy happily welcomes his old friend. Tita flies in closer to inspect Lilia, pointing out that she has never seen this girl before stopping to take a much closer look. She gasps in total shock when she realizes Lilia is actually a human, leaving both of them completely startled. Tita flies over and accuses the little tiger cub of causing trouble again, but Gulu quickly panics and says he is not the one behind this today. Tita crosses her arms with a knowing smile, teasingly saying she understands it is actually Kuro's business instead. She looks at Lilia and teases Kuro about bringing his special someone, making Lilia blush like crazy while Kuro grumpily tells the fairy to stop teasing. Tita asks for her name, so Lilia nervously calls herself Elmo, prompting the cheerful fairy to repeat the name and introduce herself as Tita. Lilia stays completely silent, just watching the fairy with a thoughtful look in her eye. But out of nowhere, a voice cuts through the dark, asking what else is going on. Tita demands to know why Gulu brought this girl here and hid her, asking him what on earth he is up to. Gulu explains that he has something really important to tell Elmo, and he wants Tita to be there to witness it and bless them. Tita closes her eyes with a sad sigh and says she understands, but there is a catch. She points out that making a vow to the Felicita tree is pretty pointless right now because the tree is withering away. As she looks back at Gulu, she gently explains that her own magic power is weakening quickly too. But Gulu looks up at the giant tree and insists that it does not really matter to them if they do not get a blessing. Kuro smiles warmly, explaining that what really matters to him is simply sharing his feelings right here under the tree everyone loved so much. He says he has always looked up to the spirit tree and would be super happy to get its blessing, even if it seems unlikely now. Just then, a cute little tiger beast lets out a soft grumble. Seeing this, Tita looks surprised and softly calls out his real name, Kuro. Kuro points to himself with a gentle smile, reminding her that since he is a spirit beast, there is still a chance they can make it work. He laughs a little, adding that his own magic uses the power of darkness, which might complicate things just a bit. Kuro admits that Gulu might actually have a good point, while Lilia stands nearby in quiet thought. He explains that even if there is no official blessing, it does not mean the real feelings between them just vanish. Gulu suggests they just watch over the two of them themselves, and Tita smiles warmly as she understands. Feeling fired up, Kuro slaps his cheeks to get focused and says he is ready. He then turns back and calls out to Lilia by her alias, Elmo, while Tita watches from near the tree. Kuro apologizes for keeping her waiting, which instantly gets Lilia super flustered as she stammers out a response. Kuro smiles gently and says that even though she might have overheard some of it, he asked her to come here because he really wants her to know his true feelings. Hearing this, Lilia stays completely quiet, her cheeks turning slightly red as she listens to him. He smiles softly, getting ready to explain his thoughts from the very beginning. Kuro admits that at first, it was love at first sight, but seeing Elmo look so lonely sometimes really changed things for him. He explains that he quickly felt a strong need to protect her, and more than anything, he started wanting to make her happy. He gently points out that it hasn't been long since they first met, and since there are still many things they don't know about each other, he wants to take things slow. Kuro tells Lilia that he wants her to know all about him and that he wants to get to know her too, leaving her completely speechless and blushing. He smiles gently, admitting he feels a bit bad for leaving her behind with a story she didn't know anything about. But Lilia quickly speaks up, saying she is actually used to it because she has always been treated like an outsider. Hearing this, Kuro smiles warmly and reassures her that she is not an outsider at all, but rather someone super precious to him whom he wants to be with from now on. Lilia can only blush in silence, quietly calling out to him as Gulu-san. She realizes that while being avoided was always normal for her, and no one ever tried to get to know her, interacting with someone can actually feel this incredibly warm. Deeply moved, Lilia wraps her arms around Kuro in a warm hug, thinking about how happy she is to have met such a kind person. Blushing deeply, Kuro gently calls out to her using her alias, Elmo. With his face completely red, Kuro looks right at her and confesses his love, asking her to be his partner. Squeezing his hands, she immediately replies that she feels the exact same way. Looking right into his eyes, she says she wants to protect Kuro, whom she calls Gulu-san, and make him happy. She explains that she wants them to find happiness together because being happy all by herself just isn't enough anymore. With a bright blush and a huge smile, Elmo looks up and softly admits that she wants to be with him. Gulu chuckles softly, leaning in close to tell Elmo that he wants to be happy with her too, and she happily tells him yes. They share a quiet, tender moment, staring deeply into each other's eyes as the world around them fades away. Pulling her close, Gulu gently presses his lips to hers for a sweet and romantic kiss. As they pull apart, Elmo looks a little flustered and surprised, while Gulu just gives her a warm, loving smile. Gulu tells Elmo that he is really looking forward to their future together, and she happily agrees, saying she is looking forward to it too. Back in her room, Elmo flops face first straight onto her bed to rest. She lies there in total silence, burying her face in the pillow as she tries to process everything. Clutching the pillow tightly, she blushes as she realizes that she and Gulu are officially a couple now. It still hasn't fully sunk in yet, but she feels so super happy inside. She gets quiet, thinking about how she never expected to find someone so special after being alone for such a long time. Still, So much happened today that she can't help but hide her face, leaving the fairy girl completely shocked by her reaction. Out of nowhere, the fairy girl gets startled, wondering what is happening, as her body suddenly starts to feel really warm. She beams with joy, saying a wave of pure happiness is filling her whole body and that she has not felt this way in a super long time. When Elmo asks if she is doing okay, the fairy girl cheerfully yells back that she actually feels amazing, leaving their little baby tiger friend totally confused. The baby tiger can only look on, quietly wondering what is going on. But then, the baby tiger spots something on a nearby tree and tells everyone to quickly look up. To their surprise, a lovely flower is blooming right on the branch. The fairy girl excitedly points out that it is true, and even though it is just one flower for now, it is definitely blooming, calling it a total miracle. Gru stares at the plant in total shock, completely unable to believe his eyes, while Elmo stands right beside him. He starts to wonder if this beautiful miracle actually happened because they just confessed their feelings to each other. As Elmo looks at him in confusion, Gru suddenly calls out her name, catching her completely off guard. Out of nowhere, he leans right in super close to her face, making her heart race. Flustered, Elmo immediately pushes him back, shouting that she is far too embarrassed to do this, which leaves a blushing Gru wondering if she just rejected him. Feeling totally cornered, Elmo desperately begs her companions Gray and Cheetah to step in and say something to save her. But instead of helping her out, the fairy girl Gray gets super intense and demands that they just kiss already. Even the baby tiger Cheetah is completely focused on the idea of a kiss, making Elmo feel like the pressure is way too much to handle. Seeing no other way out, a blushing Elmo finally snaps and decides to just go for a quick kiss on the cheek to get it over with. Later that night, she faceplants onto her bed and kicks her legs in embarrassment, frantically wondering if doing that was actually necessary. Just then, Gru suddenly opens the door and calls her name, making a super flustered Elmo sit up and yell back in total panic. As Elmo sits on the bed and asks why he looks so surprised, Gru sheepishly tells her to try and remember what happened back in the forest. Elmo wonders what happened in the forest, but she immediately gets flustered and mumbles that it is actually nothing. Gru smiles gently and asks Elmo to give him her hand for a second. Although she is a bit confused, Elmo agrees and holds out her hand to him. He places a beautiful, sparkling pendant right into her open palm, leaving her completely stunned. Elmo gasps at how beautiful the pendant is, and Gru happily explains that it is a special gift just for her. Gru asks if she likes the gift, and Elmo happily replies that it is really lovely. Before she knows it, Gru leans in close to put the necklace on her, catching her completely off guard. Being so close to him makes Elmo super flustered, and she stammeringly calls out his name. But as she looks down, she suddenly notices something on his chest and lets out a soft sound of surprise. She realizes they are wearing matching necklaces, though the one around his neck is a different color than hers. Gru happily confirms this, explaining that her pendant is the color of his eyes, while his is the color of hers, leaving her touched by the thought of wearing each other's colors. Looking down at the beautiful gift, Elmo is completely speechless as a warm blush spreads across her face. She looks up with a bright, happy smile, thanking him and saying she will treasure it forever. Seeing her adorable expression makes Gru's heart skip a beat, catching him completely off guard. Before she knows it, Gru leans in incredibly close and softly calls out her name. He holds her gaze with a serious, blushing look that shows just how much he cares about her. It is all too much for Elmo, and she squeezes her eyes shut while her heart beats wildly. Without wasting any time, Gru leans in and gives Elmo a sweet, gentle kiss on the lips. Elmo is left completely speechless, letting out a soft sigh as she tries to process what just happened. She blinks in total surprise when she feels him suddenly pull back. The two of them just sit quietly, side by side on the edge of the bed in a slightly awkward silence. Still super flustered, Elmo nervously looks over and asks herself if that was really the end of it. But Gru just gives her a warm, knowing smile that catches her off guard once again. Elmo is completely flustered and can only glare in embarrassment, absolutely speechless at how much Gru is teasing her. She finally snaps and yells that she is going to bed because she has work tomorrow. But Gru keeps teasing her about how cute she looks, blushing while she continues to complain. The next morning, Elmo is busy working at a bakery when her boss calls out to have her head to the register after stocking the bread, and Elmo quickly answers. While holding her tongs, she tells herself to focus since she was way too excited yesterday, though she really wants to find a way to thank Gru for the pendant. But right as she starts to welcome some incoming customers, she freezes mid-sentence in total shock. It turns out a couple of knights have walked in, with one asking if this is the shop and the other confirming that a super cute girl works there. As they eagerly look around, Elmo spots a crest of a hawk and a sword on the cloak, immediately recognizing them as the Knights of Serdia and wondering why they are here. Suddenly, the knights spot her and point her out, leaving Elmo completely taken aback. The blonde knight agrees that Elmo is adorable, while the second knight brags about spotting her the other day as she gets totally flustered. She clenches her fist in annoyance, wondering what is wrong with these people all of a sudden. Elmo tries to speak up and asks them to stop because they are bothering the other customers, but she is interrupted by someone groaning in pain. It turns out to be the junior knight, who drags his seniors away and asks what they are doing in a bakery, making Elmo worry that there are even more of them. The leaving knights snap at the rookie, telling him not to get in their way as they head out. The junior knight just smiles, saying that is pretty mean, and explains he only came to fetch them so they would not be late for training. But Elmo just stands there, completely frozen in absolute shock. Her mind races in panic as she desperately wonders why on earth this person is standing right in front of her. This instantly triggers a dark memory of this exact man leaning in close, coldly asking how long she plans on staying by His Highness's side. He had then told her that a girl named Lilia gets sad whenever she is around, so she needs to just get lost already. In her mind, she remembers him nastily saying that every single time he sees her face, Lilia gets upset. He is the exact same guy who picked on her and made her life miserable back when she was still a duke's daughter. To make things worse, she knows him as Albert Loris, the second son of an earl's family and one of the main love interests from the game. Elmo completely freezes, desperately wondering why on earth someone like him would show up in a place like this. She can only watch from behind as Albert Loris stands there chatting with his fellow knights. Sweating with worry, her heart sinks as she keeps asking herself why this has to happen to her. Elmo internally panics, wondering why on earth Albert is here, while a nearby knight notices her distress and asks if she is okay. She quickly snaps out of it, realizing she has to get these people to leave the shop immediately. She boldly speaks up, telling them that if they are not going to buy anything, they need to leave, but the rude knight just leans in way too close, telling her not to be so cold and begging for just a little bit of her time. Elmo completely loses her patience and sharply yells that she has had absolutely enough. The creepy guy just laughs it off and says her angry face is cute, ignoring her protests as he tries to invite her out for a drink, until someone suddenly barks a loud warning to stop them. The bakery owner gets super angry and yells at the group to just go home if they are only there to tease them. A mysterious figure in a dark cloak watches from nearby as one of the knights gasps in shock at her sudden outburst. The brown-haired knight snaps back that they are official knights serving the country, while Albert is left completely speechless. He angrily asks if she thinks she can talk to them like that, but another knight suddenly reaches out to stop him. It is the female knight who tells them they are completely out of time and forces Albert and his buddy to leave while they complain about being pushed. Before rushing out the door, she kindly tells the two ladies to stay safe as well, leaving Elmo surprised. Before leaving, the friendly female knight offers Elmo a quick apology for all the trouble. Once the group is gone, Elmo is left standing there completely frozen in shock. As they watch the knights finally walk out the door, Elmo is so shaken up she can barely even speak. She tightly grips her fist, thinking to herself about how terrifying that whole encounter was. She secretly worries if Albert recognized her, but she tries to calm down by remembering her clothes are much simpler now and she is not wearing any makeup. Just then, the kind bakery owner pulls her close, apologizing for not stepping in sooner and gently asking Elmo if she is all right. Elmo tries to reassure her boss, smiling as she says she is fine and thanking her so much for the help. The kind bakery owner tells Elmo she is heading back, but warns her to call if anything else happens, and Elmo quickly promises she will. An uneasy feeling starts to sink in, with a quiet hope that absolutely nothing bad goes wrong. After a long day, Elmo says her goodbyes, and as she heads home feeling totally exhausted, she wishes she could see Gru right away. But out of nowhere, a voice calls out to her from behind, causing her to freeze right in her tracks. She turns around in total shock, instantly recognizing the voice, as a pair of boots walks right up to her. Albert stands right behind her with a smug smile, asking if she is indeed Lady Elmo, which immediately makes her panic as she recognizes her former bully. She nervously wonders if he actually recognized her, while Albert just looks at her with a curious smile. She quickly decides she will just pretend not to know him and try to walk away, but he grabs her hand and tells her to wait. She tells him that it hurts and demands that he let her go, but he cheerfully refuses. Holding her hands tightly, he tells her with a big smile that he has been searching for her this entire time. Elmo is left completely shocked, nervously wondering why on earth he would be looking for her. Panicking, Elmo realizes she cannot just stand there and absolutely needs to run away right now. Trying to stay calm, she politely greets him as a knight and nervously asks if there is something she can do for him. Hearing her treat him like a total stranger completely catches the knight off guard, leaving him frozen in shock. He covers his face in disbelief, asking what she could possibly mean by asking what she can do for him, while Elmo just stands there in nervous silence. but then he suddenly bursts out laughing, teasing her that it is a really formal greeting to use for him and addresses her as Lady Elmo. She quickly points out that she is actually just an ordinary village girl, which leaves the knight looking completely confused. Albert asks if she is really saying she is not Lady Elmo, but she just stands there in nervous silence, desperately trying to keep up her act. Albert smiles and says that is fine, casually adding that it is none of his business if some random village girl ends up getting arrested, which completely catches her off guard. While Elmo stands there shocked and wondering why she would be arrested, Albert starts to walk away and waves back, apologizing for wasting her time. He bids goodbye to Elmo the village girl, leaving her panicked and wondering if there is actually someone out there hunting for her. Desperate for answers, Elmo yells for him to wait and demands to know exactly what he means by getting arrested. And just like that, Albert turns around with a smug, satisfied grin, knowing his little trick worked perfectly. Elmo can only stare back in silent shock, completely caught off guard. Albert playfully mocks her claim, teasingly pointing out that while she might not be a fancy lady anymore, he asks if Elmo, the simple village girl, is secretly curious about why he is here. This immediately gets under Elmo's skin, and she struggles to find the words to deny it. But Albert sees right through her act, telling her to stop trying to act tough when her face gives everything away. Brushing it aside, he drops a massive bomb on her, casually revealing that her former fiancé actually sent him a letter. Elmo is totally shocked, wondering why on earth a knight would be getting a letter. Albert gets right in her face, telling her he has no reason to share what it says, and complaining that he only got sent away to a place like this because of her. He glares at her angrily, shouting that it's all because Lady Reina called off their engagement. The news of the broken engagement catches Elmo off guard as she tries to remember who Lady Reina is. This triggers a memory of a girl with long, wavy hair walking down a grand hallway. She vividly remembers seeing that same girl crying and hiding her face in her hands. Elmo spots her crying in the hallway and softly asks why she is crying. She smiles warmly and kindly offers to listen if the girl wants to talk about what is bothering her. Lady Reina is surprised at first that someone with such bad rumors would even approach her, but she is hurting so much that she hesitantly starts to open up. She reveals that her fiancé, Albert, was totally obsessed with a girl named Lilia and completely ignored her, which makes Elmo want to give her some advice, since she sees her own past in the girl's struggles. Elmo looks at her with a kind smile and says that a man who ignores his own fiancé is definitely not the right person for her. Hearing this, Lady Reina is completely stunned as the comforting words hit her close to home. Lady Reina smiles happily, thanking Elmo and promising to do her best to find someone even more wonderful, which makes Elmo realize that she actually succeeded and found someone great. Thinking back on how happy Lady Reina is now, Elmo smiles to herself, thinking about how awful Albert is in comparison. Seeing her smirk, a frustrated Albert snaps and demands to know what she is laughing at. Elmo doesn't hold back, pointing out that he ignored his fiancée far too much and left her feeling completely lonely. She adds that because of his unfaithful attitude, the girl's feelings naturally drifted away. Hearing this harsh truth, Albert's eyes twitch with pure frustration. Albert angrily tells Elmo to shut up, nastily asking how it feels to go from being a duke's daughter to just a regular village girl. As his harsh words echo in her mind, Elmo pauses for a quiet moment to think about his question. But instead of being upset, she stands tall and proudly yells back that she is actually much happier now. She clutches her pendant close to her chest and hesitates for a second as she prepares to explain why. Suddenly, the beautiful gem around her neck begins to shine with a bright, magical glow. The handsome, dark-haired man playfully teases her, and Elmo boldly says that she has finally found a man she truly loves. Elmo is completely stunned, letting out a gasp of pure shock. Albert is caught completely off guard by this sudden interruption and demands to know what is going on. After shocking Albert, Guru wraps his arm around Elmo and smoothly explains he just came to pick up his lover since she was taking too long to show up, leaving the rude knight totally speechless. But Albert just bursts out laughing, teasing Guru and asking if he actually thinks he is a real man, finding the whole situation hilarious. An angry Elmo tries to yell back at him, but Guru quickly holds her back and tells her to wait. She looks at him in confusion, calling out his name, but Guru reassuringly tells her to just leave everything to him. Guru politely calls out to get Albert's attention, making him turn around with a grunt. Guru calmly starts by saying that he does not know if Albert and Elmo are actually acquainted, but he would really appreciate it if Albert stopped making a fool out of his precious lover, leaving Elmo totally shocked in the background. A tense silence falls over the area as the two men just stand there, staring each other down, but Albert just shrugs his shoulders and lets out a teasing smile, acting totally unfazed. He even leans in close to touch his chin, asking in disbelief if this guy is really Elmo's lover. Albert looks at Guru with a smug expression and tells him he seems pretty unreliable. Then he turns to Elmo and claims he could protect her from Eldrad, which leaves her completely confused about what he means by protection. Both men stand there totally lost, with Guru wondering what on earth is going on and who this guy even is. But Elmo isn't about to just stand there and take it. She boldly steps in front of Guru and snaps that she has no idea what Albert is talking about, but she doesn't need his help anyway. Dragging Guru away, she tells him they are going home, leaving Guru totally surprised, while Albert is left standing there in dead silence. Albert shrugs off her anger, casually saying he will just come back tomorrow anyway, which leaves Elmo totally speechless. This makes Elmo shout right back, telling him to stay away and absolutely not come. But Albert just waves goodbye as he walks off, telling her not to be so difficult. Left behind, Elmo looks completely stressed out until Guru quietly calls out her name. Guru then asks if they should head home too, and she quietly agrees. But on their way back, something suddenly comes to Guru's mind. Elmo looks at Guru and asks how he knew exactly where to find her. Guru points out that she has her pendant to thank for that. He explains that he put a tracking spell on it to easily know her location, which leaves her totally surprised. Guru smiles warmly at her, and she looks really happy. As they walk, Guru gently calls out her name to get her attention. He reassures her that if she does not want to talk about that guy from earlier, he won't ask, which completely surprises her. Guru gives her a gentle smile and says she can just tell him whenever she finally feels ready. Walking home with her groceries, Elmo thinks that even though Guru is being super kind, she knows he must be really curious about what's going on. She tightly squeezes her clothes, gathering up her courage to make a decision. Looking right at him, Elmo says she wants him to hear the whole story, promising to tell him absolutely everything once they get back home. This completely catches Guru off guard, leaving him totally surprised by her sudden determination. He gently holds her hand and softly agrees to wait until they are back. After heading back home together through the woods, Elmo and Guru prepare for their talk. Sitting at the table, Elmo asks Guru to please listen to her story without getting too shocked. She hesitates for a second before dropping a massive bomb, telling him that she was actually the fiancée of the first prince of the Fares kingdom, which leaves Guru completely stunned. Guru processes the news, realizing that her royal connection explains why her manners always felt so elegant. Elmo explains that she had been trained to be the prince's wife ever since she was a little kid, but everything changed right after they entered the academy. It turns out that was the moment the prince ended up falling for someone else. Elmo explains that eventually, the prince starts neglecting her, pouring all of his attention into some other girl instead. Soon, nasty rumors spread that she is a wicked woman trying to ruin their love, leaving her completely isolated from everyone. And right at the graduation ball, things get even worse when the prince publicly calls off their engagement. On top of that, she gets kicked out of her own home by her noble family because they care way too much about appearances and formality. With nowhere else to go, she leaves her homeland behind and ends up in this new country before she even knows it. Hearing this, Guru tells her that must have been really tough, and then asks who that guy from earlier was. Elmo explains that the guy they saw is named Albert, a schoolmate of the prince who was banished from their kingdom after a bunch of trouble. On top of that, it turns out a letter from the prince actually arrived for him. She mentions that Albert kept telling her she was going to get caught, but claimed he could protect her. Guru listens carefully and realizes that even though the prince broke off the engagement for his own convenience, he might be trying to take Elmo back. Hearing this, Elmo gets super upset, calling the prince way too selfish and wondering what he could possibly want from her now. She tightly squeezes her dress in frustration, clearly done with her ex-fiancé's constant nonsense. Crying, Elmo refuses to let go and says she wants to stay by Guru's side forever, while he gently tells her that it is okay. Guru takes her hands and promises he swore under the spirit tree to protect her, saying he will absolutely never hand her over to anyone. Hearing this makes Elmo blush deeply as she tries to hold back her emotions. She can't hold back anymore and tightly hugs Guru, calling out his name. Guru is caught completely off guard by the sudden hug and calls out her name in surprise. Holding onto his shoulders, Elmo tells him that if he hadn't let her stay in his house back then, she doesn't know what would have happened to her by now. Elmo looks up with a blush and tells Guru she is super happy to have met such a wonderful person like him. Hearing this, Guru is completely caught off guard and stares at her in silence. He then smiles happily, saying he actually has to thank the prince for making this happen, and promises he will never let her go and will make her happy. Elmo beams with joy and blushes, eagerly saying she feels the exact same way. Without wasting a second, she pulls him into a tight, warm hug. Guru is left completely still, deeply touched by how close she is holding him. Guru looks up blushing and asks Elmo if they can stay like this just a little longer. Elmo doesn't say a word, just looking back at him with a soft, loving smile. But just as they lean in super close, someone suddenly ruins the romantic moment by screaming that there is an emergency. The little tiger runs in panicked, shouting out Guru and Elmo's names, and telling them they need to listen to him. Both of them are completely caught off guard, letting out confused sounds as they freeze in place. After a brief, quiet pause, the little tiger eagerly explains that the Felicita tree has suddenly grown even more flowers. Guru blushes and explains he was just so happy that he came running over, leaving Elmo completely frozen and flustered by the sudden intrusion. Looking at their awkward faces, the little tiger suddenly realizes the timing and chirps that he must be interrupting them, leaving both of them totally speechless. He happily reminds them of their visit to the spirit tree, where they learned that the magical flowers only bloom through the power of love. As Elmo blushes furiously, the little tiger continues his thought, teasing them about the romantic mood between them right now. He cheekily asks if they were just kissing, laughing as he predicts there will be even more flowers blooming on the tree because of it. Elmo screams in total embarrassment, telling him he did not have to say that out loud, while Guru sweats nervously, realizing the flowers will completely expose their private flirting. Guru mentions that this is kind of embarrassing, but when Elmo insists they really need to hold back, he gasps that doing that is totally impossible. He starts to explain that everyone in this village feels the same way. In fact, they admit that they had completely given up on the spirit tree ever blooming again. On top of that, Guru looks so happy, and the little tiger is just really glad Elmo decided to come to their village. Deeply touched by these words, Elmo bows down and thanks the little tiger from the bottom of her heart. Looking at him with teary, grateful eyes, she softly whispers Graychan's name. Graychan happily decides to head out and tell everyone in the village the amazing news. She runs off in her cute tiger form, cheering about how happy everyone will be, leaving Elmo desperately calling for her to wait, while Guru just smiles. Graychan shouts back a quick apology for interrupting them, but Elmo cannot stop her from telling everyone that the flowers bloomed because Guru and Elmo kissed. Because of Graychan's gossip, the friendly villagers thank Elmo every single time they see her, which makes her feel super happy, but also really embarrassed. A week later, while the two of them are sitting on a bench by a town fountain, Guru suddenly gets worked up about some rude guy. While Elmo quietly eats her sandwich, Guru gets super angry and complains about how that jerk is always being so mean to her. Guru snaps about how much this situation gets on his nerves, leaving Elmo to just laugh nervously next to him. It turns out there is a very clear reason why Guru is so incredibly angry right now. Everything started when Elmo reunited with a knight named Lord Albert. From that moment on, Albert started showing up to bother her almost every single day. Even when Elmo gets mad and yells at him to go home if he is only there to tease her, he just stands there with a big smile. Elmo holds her head and screams about how truly annoying he is, while Guru glares at the smiling knight, completely fed up with his endless visits. Elmo takes a bite of her food and angrily grumbles that taking his frustration out on her is totally going too far, especially since it's all because of Albert. She remembers overhearing a young knight call out to his senior, gossiping that Albert is in a terrible mood because his ex-fiancé just got married. The knight had scolded her for listening to their conversation without permission, giving her a harsh look, but Elmo insists she never even wanted to hear it. Still fuming about it now, Elmo angrily huffs that everything is entirely Albert's own fault, making Guru jump a little at her intense reaction. Guru sighs and thinks it over, admitting that they really cannot just leave things the way they are right now. Elmo asks if they should just change their usual meeting place to stay away from him, and Guru agrees that is a smart idea. Guru suggests they could simply ask the shopkeeper to let them use the back door to sneak out of the building. However, he quickly remembers that the back door connects directly to an old lady's house and might be a hassle, which Elmo completely agrees with. The two of them hit a dead end and can only sigh together as they struggle to think of a better solution. Out of nowhere, Guru gets an idea and suggests they could use transformation magic to change her appearance, which catches Elmo completely off guard. Elmo is shocked and asks if magic can really do something like that, but Guru explains it is pretty simple and only changes her hair and eye color. Thrilled by this, Elmo says it is amazing and that it will keep them from being noticed, so Guru happily agrees that their plan is officially set. Guru holds his chin and thinks hard about what they should do next. He suddenly leans in, super close to look at her, which makes Elmo really nervous as she calls out his name. He chuckles softly and tells her that it is because she is just too cute. With another laugh, he sweet-talks her by saying he thinks any hair color would look great on her. Elmo gets super flustered, stuttering out an excuse as she reaches over to grab his chin. Blushing completely red, she holds her hands tight and says that she is best exactly the way she is right now. Guru notices her blushing and points out that her face is totally red, making her panic and complain to herself about how he can say things like that so easily. Still super flustered, Elmo asks Guru if he is just used to casually calling girls cute all the time. Guru looks completely surprised and tells her that is not true, since he has actually only ever said that to her, leaving her totally shocked. Unable to take any more of his sweet words, Elmo sits on the bench and covers her face, begging him to give her a break. She blushes deeply, realizing that lately, he has just been making her heart race constantly. She looks at him and secretly wishes she could be the one making Guru's heart race for a change. Elmo walks behind Guru, blushing deeply as she wonders how she can make his heart race just like he does to her. She starts worrying if it would be totally improper of her to be proactive and make a move, but she is suddenly cut off when she hears him calling out her name. Guru calls her name again, which snaps her out of her thoughts with a surprised gasp. He explains that he is running low on ingredients for compounding and asks if she will go shopping with him after this. With a warm smile, Guru offers her his hand and playfully suggests they call their little trip a mini-date. And just like that, she is left completely blushing and flustered all over again by his sweet charm. Elmo agrees, thinking to herself that this whole situation is definitely going to be a huge struggle for her. As they walk through the quiet market street, Guru suddenly remembers something. Guru explains that Gray and the others really want them to see the Felicita flowers, so he asks if they should go flower viewing since they have the chance, which catches Elmo completely off guard. Guru happily agrees and points out that those are the very flowers that bloomed from their kisses. Hearing that, Elmo blushes deeply and wonders how on earth she is supposed to feel while looking at flowers like that. Guru quickly apologizes with a sheepish smile, teasingly admitting he only said it because she looks so incredibly cute when she gets embarrassed. Elmo blushes deeply and tells Guru he is being terrible, calling him a total dummy for teasing her like that. She stammers that they haven't done enough couple-like things yet to justify going on a flower viewing date, but Guru warmly replies that it is just something fun to look forward to. Guru looks at her with a gentle smile and asks her directly if she will go with him. Elmo blushes and says she will go, admitting it is her very first time going flower viewing, so she is super excited about it. As they walk down the street together, Elmo asks if she should make a lunchbox for them, which gets Guru super happy. She asks him if there is anything special he wants to eat, and he happily starts thinking about what they should have. Inside a quiet room, someone lets out a soft sigh as they work in secret. Filled with pure anger, she mutters to herself about how much she hates her, repeating those words over and over. She begins grinding up special herbs, naming the sosal grass and monlis grass she needs for her dark recipe. Laughing creepily, she tells herself she is almost done and just needs to add beast blood to complete her mixture. She blames that girl for ruining her life, crying that she took absolutely everything away from her. She promises to curse everything the girl loves and tells Tigray it is time to go, completely ignoring a voice begging her to stop. Someone desperately reaches out, pleading for another not to use a potion and begging them not to leave. Suddenly, Elmo wakes up crying, her hand still reaching out into the empty air as her name is called. Guru looks down at her with a worried face, asking if she is okay since she was having a bad nightmare, making her look up at him in surprise. She lies there with tears still running down her face, slowly realizing that it was all just a dream, but she remembers that exact scene from the story's White Spirit Beast route. It is the heartbreaking moment where she makes a fever potion in complete shock after being betrayed by the person she loved. In that original timeline, a simple fever ends up dragging the entire kingdom of Pharez into a massive battle between Elmo and Lilia. But Elmo tells herself she acted completely differently from the game's plot, hoping she changed things enough so that Dark Future never happens. Still, she wakes up sweating and exhausted, thinking about how crazy it is to have a nightmare like that right now. Seeing how upset she is, Guru kindly asks if she is feeling sick, but Elmo tries to brush it off and insists she is totally fine. She rubs her forehead and confesses she just had a bit of a bad dream, while Guru stays quiet and keeps a close eye on her. Then, she suddenly leans her head against his chest, catching Guru totally off guard as he gently places his hand on her hair. Elmo looks down with a soft, blushing smile as she enjoys this quiet, tender moment. She snuggles up close to thank Guru, which catches him completely off guard and leaves him totally flustered. She tells him how happy she is and how much she is looking forward to seeing the cherry blossoms today, and he warmly agrees. She promises herself that she will never make a potion that brings people pain. Once they head outside, Elmo gasps in pure wonder at what lies ahead. She looks up at the gorgeous blooming cherry tree and calls it absolutely amazing, while Guru stands by her side with a happy smile. Looking up at the cherry blossoms, Elmo sweetly points out how beautiful the blooming flowers are, making Guru softly sigh in agreement. But the sight is almost too much for Guru, and he suddenly tears up, saying it brings back a lot of memories from his past. He gazes at the petals, admitting he really really didn't expect the trees to be in such full, beautiful bloom. But when he turns around, he stops and asks Elmo why she is crying too, as she stands there sob-groaning at the beautiful sight. Flustered, Elmo tries to wipe her face and apologizes, explaining that her tears just started falling completely on their own. Guru playfully teases her for being a total mess, while she laughs through her tears about how embarrassing this is. The tiny tiger creature says that crying from happiness means it's a huge success, which the little fairy girl totally agrees with, making Elmo softly admit that they're right. Looking at the beautiful scenery, Elmo realizes it looks exactly like her favorite scene from the game she played so many times before. She is super happy to see it in person again, which brings a warm smile to her face. Suddenly, Guru calls out to Elmo to get her attention. Guru excitedly suggests holding a banquet there during the next full moon, saying that everyone in the village will love it. Hearing this awesome idea, both the little fairy girl and the tiny tiger creature gasp in total surprise and excitement. The little tiger companion gets super excited to see how everyone will react to the banquet news. But Guru blushes and says there is one more thing he wants to add. Looking shy, Guru says he wants to formally tell everyone about their relationship. Hearing this, Elmo is completely caught off guard and blushes deeply. The little tiger creature thinks that is a wonderful idea and says their grandmother and the others will be super happy to hear it. However, Elmo suddenly chimes in that she knows a way to make everyone even happier, which leaves Guru a bit confused. As Elmo starts to explain her idea, Guru instantly gets a bad feeling about whatever she is planning next. Even the tiger companion gets in on the fun, acting super sweet and lovey-dovey. A tiny fairy companion excitedly yells that they should kiss, which makes Elmo scream that there is no way, leaving Guru totally confused. Guru gets super worried and asks if she just doesn't want to kiss him, but a blushing Elmo yells that it is just way too embarrassing in front of everyone. Guru sadly accepts it and asks if she actually hated the idea, leaving Elmo panicking because he looks incredibly depressed. Seeing his sad face, Elmo blushes and sighs to herself, thinking that she guessed she has no choice. She grabs onto his cloak and calls out his name to get his attention. Elmo leans in close and whispers that she will do it at home when it is just the two of them, which totally catches Guru off guard. He is completely frozen in shock, barely able to process what he just heard, as he lets out a confused gasp. With a playful blush, Elmo tells him that since he is always the one making her heart race, this is simply her payback. While Guru stammers in embarrassment, Elmo laughs happily, thrilled that her little plan was a huge success. Meanwhile, over at the night dormitory in the kingdom of Sartia, someone calls out for Alberto, who readily answers. A fellow knight hands over a sealed letter to Alberto, who politely thanks him as he takes it. Alberto looks down at the letter in his hands and is shocked to see that the sender is actually Lilia. When his colleague teases him and asks if it is from a girl, Alberto tells them it is a secret, announces he is heading out, and receives a warm goodbye from his coworker. Once he is alone in his room, he unfolds the paper and wonders what Lilia could possibly want from him. Leaning over his desk, Alberto questions what this letter is about and can't believe his eyes when he reads that she wants monster blood. He grins and notes that this is some really dangerous stuff, especially since she even went through the trouble of sending a map. Trying to understand what she means by a spirit beast, he walks by the window and wonders if she is just messing with him. Alberto stands in total silence, staring down as he thinks over the mysterious letter. He scratches his head, realizing she would never go out of her way to send a letter just to play a joke, and succeeding means he actually gets to be Lilia's royal guard. A confident smile spreads across his face as he makes up his mind. Shredding the paper into tiny pieces, Alberto decides he is definitely going to give it a try if it means he can finally return to Fares. Meanwhile, something completely unexpected draws attention, over by a massive ancient tree. The local villagers can only stare in absolute shock at the sight before their eyes. An old village woman looks up in absolute shock, unable to believe what she is seeing. Right above her, the massive tree has suddenly bloomed so beautifully that the local villagers can only stare in disbelief. While the other villagers point and cheer at the branches, the old village woman is so moved she wipes a tear of joy from her eye. Nearby, the blonde girl in the cloak holds onto her bundle and calls out to Guru, who turns back to listen. Looking at the crowd of villagers celebrating the beautiful sight, she softly whispers how happy she is. Guru smiles warmly beside her, admitting he really did not expect everyone to be this happy about it. As they get ready, the blonde girl in the cloak happily tells Guru how much she is looking forward to the banquet tonight, and he warmly agrees with her. Once they join the celebration, Guru calls out to the cheerful crowd to make sure everyone has a drink in hand so they can finally get started. The old village woman holds up her cup and says she would love to start the toast right away, but she tells the crowd that Guru actually has something to say first. She looks right over at him with a warm smile, expecting him to take the lead. Guru gets totally flustered by the sudden formal mood and wonders what is going on, but he quickly tries to gather his thoughts and steps up. Looking out at the waiting crowd of villagers, he begins his speech by saying they might already be aware of what he is about to share. Guru happily shares some amazing news with everyone, announcing that he finally confessed his feelings to Elmo, and they are officially a couple now. He continues by telling the crowd that the spirit tree blooming again isn't just a random miracle. He explains that it all happened because the villagers believed in him and supported him through everything. With a bright smile, he places a hand over his heart and gives everyone a sincere, heartfelt thank you. The entire crowd is absolutely thrilled, from a cute little tiger cub to the happy locals and the sweet old village woman, who all smile with pure joy. The villagers warmly wish Guru and Elmo a lifetime of happiness together, and Guru happily agrees with a bright, excited nod. The old village woman smiles warmly and says that, now she has said her piece, it is time for them to get things started. She adds that they should celebrate Guru and Elmo's relationship, especially since they get to have a banquet under the fully blooming spirit tree on a beautiful full moon night. Right on cue, Guru, Elmo, and the happy villagers all raise their wooden mugs high in the air and yell out a loud cheers. Everyone happily pours their drinks and gathers close as the festival kicks off. On the table, there is plenty of good food to go around, including a delicious-looking fruit pie with a slice already cut out. The bearded villager and the rest of the crowd laugh and toast, getting a little red in the face as they fully enjoy the wonderful party. Elmo watches the lively crowd of villagers from a short distance as they walk along. Out of nowhere, Guru waves to get her attention and calls out her name. He calls her over, asking her to come join him up on the path. As they walk together, Guru remarks on how quiet it finally is, adding that everyone back there is making way too much noise when the moon isn't even out yet. Elmo just giggles and softly says it only means they're having a really great time. With a bright smile, she turns to him and asks if there is something he needs. Guru smiles warmly and tells Elmo that he has a little something he wants to give her. He reaches out and shows her a tiny, delicate ring sitting in his palm. Elmo is surprised and asks if it is already finished, wondering if this ring is the tool to change her appearance. As he slides the ring onto her finger, Guru explains that he wanted to be prepared because it would be too late if anything happened to her. She looks down at the ring on her hand, absolutely amazed by his thoughtfulness. He tells her she just needs to touch the ring for 5 seconds to change her look, and suggests trying it later, which a super flustered Elmo happily agrees to. When Guru suddenly calls her name, Elmo snaps out of her thoughts and stammers to hide how flustered she is. She looks right back at him, softly calling out Guru's name. She clutches her hand in a panic, wondering if he has any idea what it means to place a ring on that specific finger. To her surprise, Guru just flashes a huge, happy smile and holds up his own hand to show he is wearing a matching ring. It turns out that making a promise like this under the special Felicita tree actually means they are now officially engaged, and Guru looks at her with a sweet, loving gaze. Elmo is so happy that she smiles warmly with sweet tears of joy in her eyes. She happily agrees to make their vow and wraps her arms around Guru, calling out his name as they share a big hug. Above them, the giant tree sheds its pretty petals under the open sky, making the whole moment feel super special. But as Elmo heads back with her little tiger friend, she looks surprised to see a crowd gathered down below. The Beastmen villagers, including a loud lion-like beastman, spot them and start calling out to them. They jokingly ask where the two of them went and tell them to hurry over because the real party is about to start, making Elmo quickly agree to join in. Elmo suddenly pauses as a mysterious voice comments on how much fun everyone seems to be having. Out of nowhere, a cool-looking woman with long hair leaps down and asks if she can join in on the fun too. One of the wolf beastmen looks up in complete shock, starting to call out her name. The crowd instantly recognizes her, happily calling out for Lady Silwa as she stands before them. The tiger beastman is surprised she came back, but Silwa smiles and says she returned because she heard the spirit tree had bloomed. Watching this whole interaction unfold, a nervous Elmo softly calls out to Guru, who is right by her side. Someone steps up to introduce the newcomer, announcing that she is the guardian deity of the spirit forest, the great spirit Silwa, which leaves Elmo completely stunned. Elmo can barely believe her ears, silently repeating the words, "the great spirit," to herself in pure shock. Hoping to make a good impression, Elmo stutters out her name, but Silwa just smiles warmly and tells her she does not need to be so polite. But as they talk, Silwa's eyes suddenly drop down, zeroing in on the ring on Elmo's finger. Seeing the ring, Silwa realizes that they have made a promise to each other, and she immediately turns her attention back to Guru. With a serious look on her face, Silwa asks Guru straight out if Elmo is actually a human, making Elmo freeze in surprise. The tiger-striped beast quickly speaks up to defend Elmo, nervously explaining that even though she is human, she is a good person. Silwa just laughs it off, saying they are only joking and already knew everything because they heard about the two of them from Gure. Hearing this, the tiger-striped beast is completely shocked to find out that his own brother was the one who told them. Silwa then becomes a bit more serious, admitting there is actually another reason they had to return to the forest. But suddenly, Silwa stops talking, sweating as they focus their ears to listen closely to something in the distance. Turning around quickly, Silwa apologizes and says they want to explain more, but they have to leave immediately because of an emergency. Suddenly, the light-haired knight looks out into the trees and realizes that a stranger has just snuck into the spirit forest.